Aye.
Aye.
Motion so carried. We would like to invite the Boy Scouts up, the troop leader for the Boy Scouts, to lead us in the pledge. So once they come up and they do their introductions, then we'll all stand.
I guess we'll stand.
Are you guys going to get introduced? Why don't you tell us who you are?
My name is Mitchell Regano. I'm the senior patrol leader of the troop. This is Ezra, and this is Sam.
Can
Ezra and Sam Constantine.
can everybody please stand?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand, salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome, everybody. There might be some more chairs. There's some chairs in the break room. There's about 4 or 5 chairs in there if anybody wants. And there's some chairs. There's 2 down there if anybody wants to take them in. Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome tonight. So, I have to do some additions to the town board agenda, but we'll do that later and just readopt the town board agenda. But for the purposes of the joint town village meeting agenda, Dave Clauser, who was going to do a DEP water study update for both boards, was unable at the last minute to attend. So we'll put him on for another time. So I'm going to be deleting that from the agenda. Is there anything else?
If you care to, I have a written summary by Dave, which I could summarize the summary, make it very brief.
Sure. Okay. Okay, great. Is there anything else anybody needs to add or amend, or can I have a motion to accept the agenda? Okay, so moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, we have a couple of announcements, and is anybody here specifically here for public comment? No? Okay. So, what?
About the river? Public comment about the river?
No, well, because what I was going to say was if there was not really anybody for public comment, we could do the presentation by Riverkeeper, and then we could open it up to public comment if people want. But this way our guests who came to visit could get started, if that's okay with everybody? Okay, great. But let me just do a couple of announcements while we have everybody here, because they're all pretty important announcements. The first one is a press release that I would just like to share with everybody in regards to the unfortunate incident in New Paltz that happened on Easter Sunday morning. So this is a press release from the Chief of Police. Arrest made in homicide investigation. The New Paltz Police Department reports the arrest of Bashim D. Bennett, 21 years age, Poughkeepsie, New York. Mr. Bennett was arrested on April 22nd, 2014 at about 5:09 p.m. and charged with murder in the second degree, Class A1 felony, and assault in the first degree, Class B felony. The charges stem from an incident that occurred at Murphy's Restaurant and Pub, located in the village of New Paltz on April 20th, 2014, where a 29 years of age victim, Ryan Gray, was fatally shot. A second victim, 26 years of age, female, still remains hospitalized in stable condition. Quote from the chief: investigators from our agency, the New York State Police, and Ulster County District Attorney's Office worked long, hard hours and did an incredible job to make an arrest on this case, said Chief Joseph Snyder. This is a great example how working together brings the best police work to the table and in turn serves the community in such a positive, professional way. Although this type of news of shooting and killing appear to be common in our nearby cities, we will do our best to protect and serve our communities so that it does not become common news here. Police confirm that the victims and Mr. Bennett were known to each other. It is believed that this murder was in retaliation to a previous murder that occurred in the city of Poughkeepsie. Mr. Bennett was processed at the New Paltz Police Department and arraigned by the Town of New Paltz Justice James Bacon. Mr. Bennett has been remanded to Ulster County Jail on no bail and scheduled to return to New Paltz Court on the 28th at 6 p.m. This matter has been referred to the Ulster County Court. So our best wishes and condolences go out to the family for this loss, and just wanted to share that with everybody. Now, on some other news that's actually better news, a lot of people know that the town of New Paltz had worked long and hard on a wetlands law, and it had gotten, how do I explain, Kevin?
There was a determination made that was adverse to the local law, the town took an appeal of the adverse ruling, and the appellate court overturned the local court's decision on it upholding the wetlands law.
Okay, so, but actually, it was that was the second time, we appealed it a second time, right?
You know, I could have said that in 6 words.
Tell me.
Okay, anyway, so what I'd like to do is actually just read a statement from our attorney, George Rodenhausen. In a unanimous decision, the appellate division today reversed the lower court and reinstated the town of Newport's wetland and watercourse protection law. The court held that the town board had fully complied with the state environmental quality review law and that the mapping done by the town before enacting the law complied with the constitutional standard for the proper notice to landowners. The two key issues raised by the petitioners were whether the mapping done by the town gave landowners sufficient notice of the possible presence of wetlands on their property and whether vernal pools could be regulated. In finding that the mapping was sufficient, the court noted that the town had used all available resources in preparing the maps and that landowners were and are entitled to a free wetlands determination on their property by the town wetland inspector. In upholding the regulation of vernal pools, the court held that the definition of a vernal pool was sufficiently precise to give landowners proper notice, again backed by the free determination by the wetlands inspector. Never before has a wetlands law been so thoroughly litigated and vindicated by an appellate court. It is a testament to the hard work by the prior town board and by all the individuals who worked so hard to draft and adopt the law. As soon as the decision is entered in the next few days, the law will be back in effect. So I wanted to share that. And then I wanted to share a letter from Daniel Estrin, who's a supervising attorney for the Pace Environmental Litigation Clinic. Thank you, George, Susan, and all. We're so happy to have been able to assist and that such a wonderful result has been achieved. Thanks also to the town for progressively protecting our natural resources. This decision is very important not only for residents of the town of Newport, but also for so many similarly situated municipalities that may previously have been reluctant to adopt similar local laws out of fear of litigation. We hope the court's decision today will encourage additional protection of the state's natural resources by emboldening other municipalities that may previously have been gun-shy. All the best, Dan Estrin, Pace Environmental Litigation Center. And I just will say that it's a little ironic that Riverkeeper is here tonight, because Riverkeeper ended up joining us in amicus brief for the court. And so thank you, Riverkeeper, and we're glad to share the news with you. Okay, last, I just want to, two more things. As everybody knows, the town board has foiled a bunch of information from the UCIDA relative to the Category 5 being established. So we did get a letter today, so I just want to share it with the board and give it in the minutes. Dear Supervisor Zimmet, I am in receipt of your Freedom of Information Law request dated April 18, 2014, received by this office via electronic mail April 18, 2014. Your request is currently being reviewed and researched. It is expected that a response will be forwarded to you on or before May 14, 2014. Sincerely, Suzanne Holt, Director of Ulster County Office of Business Services. So we just received that today. If we could give this to Rosanna, so that's a response. And then just the last thing before we get into the Riverkeeper presentation is we've had a bunch of neighbors who have talked about possibly trying to limit parking out by Butterville Road, Gatehouse, in that area where a lot of people go hiking. And so we scheduled a public meeting on April 29th here at Town Hall at 7:30 for the purposes of talking about how we handle the neighbors' concerns and the parking and the ability for people to hike in our bucolic beauty. So anybody who wants to join us April 29th here at Town Hall, please join us. So does anybody else have anything else that they need to add or want to add?
Just on May 10th, that will be the annual New Paltz Regatta, a tradition that's been going on since 1955 here in New Paltz. So it didn't always go on. There were some missed years in there, but it's coming up almost on 60 years of the New Paltz Boat Regatta. It'll be starting at Village Hall. I believe it starts at 12 o'clock.
Is that Sunday?
Yes, it is. That would be Sunday, May 10th. It goes... 4th, what did I say? I apologize.
May 10th.
I apologize. May 4th goes down Main Street around 1 o'clock, I believe, and then they launch off of Plains Road and then finish down under the bridge.
Great. Okay, so with that, we'd like to invite Riverkeeper up for the purposes of doing a presentation to the Town and Village Board, and we thank you for joining us.
No, I think I need to stand here and I have to hold the microphone. I'm told. I'm gonna have my back.
There's a mic
to you, I'm
right
sorry.
there.
So, is it on? Yes? Hello? So before I get started, thanks for having us very much. We're happy to be here. I want to introduce my team, but it's so exciting to see all the scouts here and to hear about the victory on the brief. I was just wondering, for those of us who might not be in the know, do any of the scouts know what a vernal pool or a vernal pond is? Can anyone tell us what a vernal pool is? All right, well, how about out here? Anybody want to?
Vernal pools or intermittent pools are places where water is only part of the time, and there are special habitats because they don't have fish, so amphibians and other things breed in.
Yeah. So mostly they appear in the spring when it's wet, and then there's certain wildlife that can breed only in these pools. There's no fish in it, so it's peepers and frogs and amphibians, and then they dry up in the summer. So they're very precious. So that's a great victory to get to acknowledge those. Okay, so now I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues for starters. You've got the whole water quality team here. John Lipscomb, who is our boat captain, and Jen Epstein, who is our water quality associate, and my name's Tracy Brown. I'm Riverkeeper's water quality advocate, and together we do this water quality program. So I have some slides. We have 20 slides. It'll probably take us like 15 to 20 minutes to just go through everything we have to share with you tonight to start the conversation, and then we can stay for questions and answers as time allows. So I'm going to kick it off, and then Jen's going to take over halfway through. So Riverkeeper in 2006 started sampling water quality for fecal contamination because we wanted to answer the most popular question that we've been getting of late, which is, how is the water in the Hudson? And when people were asking us how's the water, they wanted to know, based on these decades of success of cleaning it up, can I swim in it now? Is it swimmable? And when you look at the question of the swimmable quality of water, there's one main thing that is the primary health risk, which is exposure to pathogens. And pathogens are delivered into a waterway through fecal matter. So it could be a human waste stream, or it could be wildlife or agriculture. But when you are exposed to pathogens in water, you have a higher risk of getting sick from any number of illnesses. It could be viral, bacterial, or parasite-based illness. So our study is really specifically focused on, is there fecal contamination in the water where we test, and how much contamination is there? So we started this study on the Hudson, and we sample at 74 locations once a month from May through October. And it happens on the patrol boat. We have an onboard lab, and it takes about a week to travel 155 miles and collect the samples. We publish the data online on our website, riverkeeper.org, and we score the data based on the EPA guidelines for safe swimming, which is also called primary contact. So any kind of primary contact recreation where you could be getting water in your mouth or in your ears or in your eyes. So we use those guidelines, and they're color-coded on our website and in this presentation. So what we're counting is a bacteria called Enterococcus. And Enterococcus is present in the guts of all warm-blooded animals. So there's lots of them in the room here tonight. We all have them, as do cows and geese and a lot of, all the other warm-blooded animals. They are not necessarily the problem themselves, but they are the best indicator that if you find them in the open water, fecal contamination has happened recently. They don't live that long outside of a warm-blooded animal. So we collect samples and we count the presence of the Enterococci, and that tells us how much contamination there is, if there is any. And the EPA guidelines are basically an acceptable, which is the green one, which is 0 to 60 60 of these Entero per 100 milliliter. They have a beach advisory. If you're managing a beach, they recommend you close it if you get 61 or higher. And then there's a state criteria for what is unacceptable for primary contact, and that line is 110. So anything above 110 is a failure by any standard for primary contact recreation. So this is what our charts are going to look like tonight, and I'll just take a minute to acclimate you to how to read these. So what we do is we take the samples, and in this case, this chart is showing you the types of sampling sites we have on the Hudson. And each bar represents all of the samples for those types of sites. So we divide our 74 sites into these 4 categories. The middle of the Hudson, near shore where there's not a tributary, so a boat launch or a beach where there's not a stream coming in nearby. The tributary sites, which are all in the Hudson but at the confluence of a tributary stream or creek. And then the sewage treatment plant outfalls. We actually sample the effluent. So in order to analyze what's happening and where we're finding high levels of contamination, this is one way we look at the data. And this shows you of all of the samples in those categories for 5 years. What percent fail for each of those 3 categorizations. So when we did this analysis and we saw that the tributaries had the highest fail rate, and for us we would combine 29 and 6%, call that a 35% failure rate, we were really surprised. That's not what we expected, because a lot of these waterways, like the Wallkill, look clear and don't smell and, appear.
It does look clear and it does smell.
Okay, we'll get to that. But a lot of them look more pristine than the Hudson. Let's put it that way. The Hudson has a lot of turbidity, and it has this history, and people expect it to be more polluted. And the Hudson overall actually has a failure rate of 23 when we combine all of our samples together. So the tributaries, the confluence of the tributaries, that point was failing more than all of the sample sites combined, and that was a surprise. So this finding is what inspired us to start to reach out to communities that had interest, like yours does, to go further up these tributary streams, replicate our Hudson River study on those tributaries, and start to see what the failure rates are and what's going on here. And this is where we're at now. We have 7 studies on tributaries throughout the Hudson River estuary. So this shows where our sampling sites are, and this is our list from north to south of where we're sampling. It's 84 sites. We do it once a month, the same as the Hudson, May through October. The main difference with these studies is because we can't get the boat into the tributaries, or at least not all the way up, we rely on citizens. So we have citizen samplers. Some of our volunteers are here tonight, and they go out and they collect the samples and meet us at the boat, and we incubate them. So this study is relatively new. You see the dates for each of the tributaries. They didn't all start at the same time. We have 2 years of data on the Wallkill and the Rondout, and of all of the tributaries in our study, the Wallkill is faring second worst after Sparkill Creek, which is in Rockland County. So we're getting a high failure rate, and when I pass it over to Jen, she's going to drill into this number and show you exactly where we're sampling and what we're seeing site by site. So, but this is just to give you a frame of reference. And there's the Hudson at the bottom there. So, put in a couple slides to talk about how the Wallkill is viewed in terms of what water quality is expected and what it's classified for, because this is important when you think about actions that you might want to take. To know what the kind of regulatory goal is for your waterway is really important. So for the Wallkill, it's divided into 3 sections and how the state looks at it, and 2 of them are classified for primary and secondary contact recreation. So there is an expectation that you can swim and paddle and do these things. So that is a goal that you guys can have as a community, and that is supported by the state. And then when you get further up, the upper Wallkill is just classified for fishing, so no recreation. Not surprising, because you're in a more agricultural community there. The Wallkill has also been assessed by DEC. They do a rotating basin program where they go out and sample water and make their own assessments. Every 5 years is the standard. And this is what they have documented based on their studies. So they have documented that there's a problem with nutrients, specifically phosphates, and with silt and sediment and pesticide in all 3 sections.
What's that again?
This is the New York State DEC, Division of Water. And you can find this online. This is if you search at their website, the 305B list is on their website. And so now we're going to go into more specifics about what we're finding, what Riverkeeper has found on the Wallkill, and Jen's going to come up. This is a sampling map that shows both our Wallkill sites and our Rondout sites, and the list on the right gives you the names of all the 21 sampling locations that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to go from that even a little deeper into New Paltz. Okay? Who's done?
Yeah, you're gonna have to come out and Okay, so as Tracy said, here on this map of the Wallkill River watershed, you can see all of our 21 sampling sites along the river. And I've got 6 data slides that I'm going to show you, and we'll jump right in by looking at an overview of the New Paltz sampling sites. I was just kidding. Okay, so these are the 4 sites that we have right here in the vicinity of New Paltz. We have from upstream to downstream the Sawmill Brook tributary, which runs through the SUNY campus and empties into the Wallkill River right at the Plains Road boat launch, which is that neighboring site that's right next to that. And then we have a site also at the Springtown Road boat launch, and another one at the Stewart's on Route 32. Okay, so this is an overview of all the data that we collected on the Wallkill River in 2012 and 2013. And as Tracy said, this slide shows the percent of all of those samples that fail those recreational criteria. I've got the sites listed here from upstream to downstream. So if you look at the top of that list, that's Unionville, the National Wildlife Refuge. This one?
That's
Can you see that?
No.
Maybe I can stand over here. Okay, so up at the top of the list there, we've got the National Wildlife Refuge in Unionville, which is right at the New York-New Jersey state line. And then as you move down the slide, you move downstream. So you come through Goshen, Middletown, Montgomery, and then into this area, Gardner, New Paltz, and further downstream. The lowermost 3 sites there are actually in the lower Rondout. So they're at Tilson, the Cooten Road below the Sturgeon Pool. That's just above the confluence of the Rondout. And then we have the Eddyville and the Rondout Eddyville Anchorage site in Kingston Point Beach, which is in the Hudson River. I'm able to advance my slides. So a couple of things to point out on this figure. Okay, not quite yet, yeah. A couple of things to point out on this figure. First of all, it's been said that the problem in the Wallkill is coming from New Jersey, and our data don't corroborate that claim. So you can see at Unionville that that site actually performs better than the sites immediately downstream of there. Not as good as we'd all like to see, but still a little bit better. And you can also see that as you move through Goshen and down into New Paltz, the performance is not great, but as you get to the very lowermost Wallkill, you do see an improvement again, and then going into the lower Rondout, it continues to improve. Thanks. Okay, so to add to this, here's the minimum and maximum values that we've observed over the course of these 2 sampling years. Now, with the method that we use, the minimum that we are able to detect is less than 1 Enterococcus per 100 milliliters, and the maximum that we're normally able to detect in freshwater without doing a dilution is 2,420 Enterococcus. So the maximum would be that greater than 2420 that you see. At some point, because we were seeing pretty high values in the Wallkill, we decided to do a dilution. And so on one of our sampling events, and I'll point that out later, which date that was, we did dilute tenfold. And as a result, you can increase the upper limit of your sampling range. So that's why you see some numbers around here that are up in the highest in the 10,000, some in the 2s and the 4s as well. So what is important to look at when you look at these mins and maxes is that the minimum represents the best condition that we find. And you can see from these mins that you do get, for many of the sites, into that range of swimmable water. On the other hand, with the maximums, you can see that the severity of the contamination does get quite bad at sometimes.
Was rain or wet events taken into account for any of these too?
On this particular chart, we're just looking at all the events grouped together, but later on I'm going to split them by weather, and we'll be able to look at that.
How many measurements you have?
It's 12 measurements, so we've done 6 per season in 2012 and 2013.
I went to a kayaking workshop at our library on Tuesday night, and I mentioned something about the contamination of the Wallkill. And there were people from the Adirondack Mountain Club, and they said that in Middletown they were dumping raw sewage into the river because it was cheaper to pay the fines than to clean it up.
Is this at the treatment plant that they...
Well, I don't know. I can only report what he said. I don't know whether it's the absolute truth or not, but it certainly concerned me.
Yeah, it is concerning. That would be a great thing
And
for us to
here,
investigate.
you have a chart here where in Middletown you're showing 100%. So
Right, so that site did not ever pass the swimmable criteria. And maybe we can talk afterwards and get contact information, get more information about that claim, because that would be an interesting thing for us to investigate.
well, you know, they're kayakers. They look for water they can kayak in and know things. So
Yeah, good eyes on the water, right?
yes, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on. Thank you for that. And look at the sites right here around New Paltz. So we've got here the 2 sites in Gardner, which are just upstream of New Paltz, and the 2 sites just downstream of New Paltz. So again, going from the top to the bottom of the page, it's upstream to downstream. What I want to point out for you here is that the sites at the Sawmill Brook tributary and the site at the Stewarts on Route 32, so the site that fails 92% plus 8% of the time at the Sawmill Brook tributary, and the Stewarts that's 91% of the time failing, those are 2 very low volume sub-tributaries of the Wallkill River. So if you have an input of contamination into either of those streams, it's not going to benefit from dilution that you see as in the Wallkill, which is the bigger streams. But it does give us an indication that these 2 sub-tributaries are sources to the Wallkill. At the Plains Road boat launch and at the Springtown Road boat launch, as I pointed out in the last slide, the minimum value that we observed is 25 and 20 respectively. So good water quality is really attainable at these sites. The maximum is alarmingly high, but good water quality is attainable at these 2 sites. Okay, so here's the figure that I promised that breaks out the samples by wet and dry weather, which is one of the things that we always look at because we know that wet weather is a trigger of contamination. It contributes to failures in the wastewater treatment system, and it also gets the groundwater moving, so it transports any leaky septic or leaky sewer lines that you might have. So what we've done here is that we've grouped the sampling data by wet or dry weather. So we record the precipitation for the 5 days prior to our sampling date, and we use a cutoff of 1/4 inch of rain. So if it rained more than 1/4 inch in those 5 days, we're calling it a wet weather count. If it rained less, we'll call it a dry weather count. And the dry weather is shown here in brown, and the wet weather are in blue. And there you've got those 2 vertical lines. Those are the 2 thresholds for failure established by the EPA. So again, we've got the whole river here to show the big picture, and you can see that if you sort of mentally split this right around the border of basically the Orange-Ulster line, the upper Wallkill looks a little bit different from the lower Wallkill. So in the upper Wallkill, which is Unionville down to the Shungunk sites that we have, the dry weather averages are substantially higher in most most cases than what you see in the lower Wallkill, down here near Gardner, New Paltz, and lower. Yeah, we can go.
But so just from that, we can take is that wet weather obviously is a huge contributor.
Yeah. I mean, I probably skipped over that. I mean, I should say that you see it here too, that in wet weather, the average is much higher. So you see a jump in values when there's wet weather. In the New Paltz area, these two sites that we have on the Sawmill Brook tributary and at the Stewarts, these two smaller sub-tributaries, the dry weather average is higher than we see at the boat launches. Again, that might be because those are such small sub-tributaries. And we do see quite a jump at both of the boat launches when the wet weather occurs. So for the last two slides that I have, we're going to really look in more detail at the two boat launch sites that we have in the main stem of the Wallkill here. So we'll start with the Plains Road boat launch. And here we've got no averages. These are the actual intro counts for each of the sampling dates. So these are basically the raw data. These are the data that we've collected on each of the sampling dates. You have the most recent sample from last October, that's up top, and then as you go down the page, you go back in time. And September 29th, 2012, that's the date when we did the dilution. So that explains why that sample has a higher, that one had a higher upper detection limit.
Were those rain events also the higher ones?
Well, so again, I've got the dry weather samples shown in brown. So if on that date we had dry weather prior to sampling, for 5 days prior to sampling, the sample's in brown. If it was wet weather, the sample's in blue. Again, you see the two thresholds for contamination. And I just want to point out that if you look at the horizontal axis of this graph, you see that it's on a log scale, so we're going by powers of 10. This just, it shrinks down the difference between that very high sample and the lower one. So it's just important to line your eyes up with the bottom and really make sure that you realize that the intervals are not the normal even intervals that you see on a graph.
We have a question over here?
Yeah.
So I wanted to, John from Riverkeeper, I wanted to add that the day we did the dilution was opportunistic. We've been sampling and seeing a lot of those samples run up against our measurement threshold of 2420. And then, the idea is to see how much greater than 2420. So we had a big rain event the night before. We tied up the boat in Kingston. The samplers went out, and as the samples came back, we did these dilutions. And so 10,000 is very high, but I should tell you that we've got in other parts of the Hudson River estuary, we've had 60,000s and 80,000s, and so it's extremely high, but it's not a record for our study. But we don't do that every time because, face it, if the threshold for a beach advisory is 61, measuring to 2,420 is pretty much, it's high enough. But it is important once in a while to look at what the maximum is.
So, just quickly, if you look at the Plains Road boat launch here,
Which one is that?
That one.
yeah. So this is all data from the Plains Road boat launch, and this is date by date. So these are each of the individual samples that we've taken there. You do see that in the dry weather, even when the samples here are failing, they're starting to sneak in and approach that swimmable level. So in terms of solving these contamination problems, it's a hopeful story.
Good.
Yes, and we'll continue. And here's springtime boat launch, which looks pretty similar to the Plains Road boat launch. Same thing, it's got some samples that even though failing are starting to sneak into the range of a swimmable level. What is really important to think about when looking at these particular slides in particular is that this is still a very young data set. So we've got 12 samples over 2 years, and if you look look at the 2013 samples, you see that we caught 2 rainy days. And if you look at the 2012 samples, you see that we caught 1 dry day. And from what we know about the weather, it will be very interesting to continue sampling, and in fact it's critical to continue sampling into 2014 and to continue to build up this data set and really flesh out this story.
The scale is actually logarithmic, right?
Yes, this one's logarithmic.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you don't realize that it's logarithmic, it doesn't, you're not really getting the proper perception of those figures up there.
Yeah, and I just wanted to do that on this particular slide because we have that one very high sample, so in order to get everything to appear on one chart, yeah, we shrunk that.
But just to point out in that last slide, if the Wallkill River was a beach, or had a beach on it, it would be closed, except for one day.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the days that we
So
sampled.
just to make it,
Yeah, the days that we sampled.
for the days we sample, but that's kind of
And that would depend on the,
representative of the river, that it would almost never be swimmable, that's true.
it would also depend on the standard that the municipality elected to apply. If you use the less protective standard, you get 3 days on the beach. That we sample. Right.
Totally worth it.
The blue represents the testing on wet days after rain. So I mean, this is just me, thinking about swimming in the river, and I don't know anyone who swims on wet or rainy days. So therefore, I have to think about dry, sunny days when people might swim, which would probably be in line with the, from 111, 128, 20, those numbers. And then I want to ask you another question. Of the times of the 15% where it was safe, was there some kind of comparative as to why they may have been safe on those days? Is it about dry days in the summer or fall? Is there any kind of, compilation as to why those days might have been safe?
Well, that's really the very reason why we're glad to be here tonight, talking to the leaders of the town and the village, and also the reason why we really need to continue sampling. We don't know yet what the sources of this are. Do you want to add, Tracy or Jonathan?
Can you take the microphone just so?
I can be very loud.
Okay. Let's go also for the TV audience.
Sorry, I'll take the mic if you'd like.
Thank God.
Yes, so to your question about rain, it's very valid. Remember that what we call a wet day is a quarter inch of rain in the prior 3 days. So 5 days.
Oh,
3 days. This is only the beginning of guidance for the public. High-frequency sampling would be required, high frequency, at least weekly, to get a better idea. So if you're an educated consumer, swimmer, river user, you might say, well, it hasn't rained in several days, it's a bright sunny day in the clear, but it's not necessarily so, and it depends very much on location. Some areas in the Hudson Valley recover much more quickly. We're using a conservative rain number. The other thing that's a tricky part is if it rains 1.5 inches in a thunderstorm, and then the afternoon is beautiful. That's deceptive to the public. So it's a very complicated data set, and really what's needed. Our effort is to begin to answer the question: is fecal contamination an issue in the Hudson Valley? And if so, begin to approximate where and how often. We hope that this will lead to additional testing and modeling. And for a lot of areas, a model will be quite successful in predicting safe water quality.
And then, of course, the last part of it is what to do about it.
Yeah, and it's a river system like the Wallkill is very difficult because it is flowing one way, and what happens in neighbor communities upstream can affect you here. and what happens in your own community can affect you. New York City, for example, we sampled all around Manhattan, New York Harbor, and there are very few farms in New York City. And so when we see high fecal contamination in New York City, we can pretty much guarantee it's a human source. And sure enough, when it's dry weather, the 14 sewer plants in New York City do a great job, and we see swimmable water quality. So in some places, it's kind of counterintuitive. In a place as complex as New York City, what to do about contamination is simple. Make the sewer plants better, make there are 460 overflows that combined discharge 30 billion gallons of sewage a year. So start working that down and you're going to get better water quality in New York City. The Wallkill is more difficult. You have to look locally. There will be known sources, and you'll have to, what we're seeing on other tributaries is community groups from town to town starting to work together because they understand that solving the problem alone isn't going to work. But it's a detective hunt.
And if anybody's interested in exploring the weather connection further, the precipitation data is all on our website. So you can go to our website and look at the Entero count data and then also the rainfall alongside that and explore those trends.
Does the sewage have anything to do with?
Wait, 1 second, there's two questions at the same time.
Should we finish?
So,
Should we do our last?
sure, let them do the last slide.
Do our last 3 slides, and then we can also come back to the data slides. There's just 3 more.
Okay, so I'll move quick. What are the next steps that Riverkeeper is going to take? We're going to continue sampling. We're going to begin the season on May 30th. We've got some samplers in the room, which is great, and continue to flesh out this data set. We are actively trying to involve different citizen advisory groups in the sampling. We've got some great promising steps on the Rondout River with the Environmental Conservation Commission, and we've got some citizen advisory committees also working with us. And we're going to continue to educate the public, elected officials, and other stakeholders on these issues. Potential next steps here that this community can take are to contact elected officials, ask for increased monitoring and notification. To my knowledge, there's nowhere on the Wallkill that is regularly monitored except for by Riverkeeper. Include pathogens in the MS4 reporting. So in order to document this issue and to spur intermunicipal cooperation on solving this issue, begin to include pathogen data in the MS4 reports. A more drastic step would be to seek an impaired listing for pathogens. So every 2 years, New York State DEC compiles a list of impaired waters and submits it to the EPA. And a step that these communities could take here on the Wallkill, New Paltz and others, would be to submit data and to seek an impaired listing. That would mean that actions would need to be taken to research exactly where all of these sources are and how to decrease the load of pathogens in the Wallkill. And then source tracking and elimination. So looking for sources and eliminating them one by one. So this can take the form of some things like stream walks, going out and observing outfalls, observing whether they're flowing, whether they show evidence of discharging contaminants. Doing permit inspections on wastewater facilities up and down the Wallkill River, seeing if they've got infractions and enforcements. New York State DEC is also doing a wastewater inventory, a wastewater infrastructure inventory, and this is a great opportunity. They're taking paper maps of wastewater facilities and wastewater infrastructure and digitizing them and putting it all into a great big digital database so New Paltz can contribute all of its infrastructure information and have itself included in that. And then get from DEC, this is the Hudson River Estuary Program. No, this is Division of Water that's doing this, right? Estuary Program. Yeah, and then so get from them assistance with interpreting all that information. Additional sampling is a great way to track sources. And GIS mapping, looking at land use, looking at the history of development, the density of septic tanks, in order to pinpoint areas that might be prime sources of contamination.
I'm going to
go back now for questions to, who did that slide? Move that up?
Yeah, sure. I'll move around.
Okay, we can't go too much longer because we still have a whole meeting tonight, but I know there are people here who are very interested. So does anybody else have any other questions they want to ask? Okay.
Is the sewer system...
Can you also just give her the, I think this is for the village, a question to the village.
Okay, is the sewer system for the village affect the river in rainy weather? Is there an overflow? And is that overflow at a quarter inch?
It depends on how much rain we get. I know that in dry, normal operating weather, the water that leaves our plant is cleaner than the water that is in the river now, at least according to the numbers given to me by my water plant operator. The sewer plant does flood when we get like the Hurricane Irene storms, or a couple of heavy thunderstorms, in the summertime can do it. I don't know what the impact is of that because I don't know what the dilution would be, so someone from Riverkeeper might be able to better answer just the impact of flooding on a wastewater treatment plant in a storm event. But I do know that it would affect, obviously, because there's human waste then leaving the plant going right in the river.
Does that water ever bypass the treatment plant? When a quarter inch of rain?
Bypass the plant?
Yeah, through overflowing through the manhole covers or whatever.
Oh, you mean through the streets? Yes, we do get that still. Though for the past 10 years we've been systematically repairing it. So we have actually, we're under a consent order with Riverkeeper, and so we work with them and the New York State DEC to identify funding sources and get the sewer lines repaired. We've gotten, just so you know, I think the last 5-6 years in a row, I've gotten $600,000 a year from Community Development Block Grant money to fix just that exact problem: overflowing manhole covers, cracked pipes, which leak when the groundwater comes up above the level of the pipe. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does. I'm concerned about vegetable gardening and using the river water for food.
That's for someone beyond my expertise.
Good.
Gardens for nutrition.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, okay, wait, before the board, there was one more person in...
Well, maybe
In terms of the gardens for nutrition, if that's what your question was about, there's a report, I think it's Cornell, that gave a report on it, and it basically said that you should not eat the vegetables that have been submerged in water. There were some things that you can wash and eat, but a lot of it becomes no good. But you would have to look at the official report, and I could make that available. I had found it.
Should I be the... Sure. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Is the water quality of the river worsened by the river being so slow and being slowed down by the dam at the end of the river? It doesn't allow the river to flow freely to actually, clean itself out.
It's a good question. Yeah, maybe. You want to take that one? Or John?
So, it's a good question. The reality is we don't really know. We got to remember that the dam impounds Sturgeon Pond, right?
No, another dam before that.
Yeah, and so that, but at every dam, there's a certain amount of impoundment.
Right.
And it doesn't reach all the way up here. So the flow rate up here, I'm not a hydrologist, but I believe that the flow rate up here would not be any different if there were no impoundment below. Because again, the impoundment, the part that the dam is holding back is what you see impounded, the pool behind it. But flow rate does matter. And it matters in ways that aren't obvious. Clearly faster moving water, if there's a pulse of contamination, faster moving system is going to transport it more quickly out. So a slow moving, long system like the Wallkill there's more residence time for contamination to live in the waterway. The other part that we're just working on with our science partners at Columbia and at Queens College in New York City
is that some of these microbes attach to sediment particles. So a system that's slow like this, and then you get a big pulse of wet weather, and a lot of turbidity is resuspended, we're finding that the microbes are attaching to the sediment and stay in the system. So again, if that isn't cleaned out quickly by fast flow, that is another potential. We can't really score it because we're working on it actively right now, but it's another reason that a slow-moving system is a problem.
See, the other problem is when they have the bladder up, they stop the water totally. And then they drop it and it goes.
Right.
So there's a lot of silt in that too.
Yeah, so there's sediment in that pond. But again, when they stop the flow there at those dams,
It backs all the way up to us.
it does.
It certainly does.
See, I'm not aware of that.
You can watch
So-
the river going up and down as they're playing with the
Yeah,
bladder.
so then that would affect, and you're in the impoundment here, and that would certainly have an effect of holding whatever contamination or contamination attached to sediments is still in the system. It doesn't get to move out.
See, the river is wide in Gardner, but then it funnels down to us. And it's just terrible. I don't know how else to explain it to you, because there's so many floods, and it's constantly coming up on our property. And when the floods come up now, you can't get rid of the silt on the hay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of other tributaries where there are not dams, there's also a rise and fall of water level in wet weather events. So,
This
but
isn't even wet weather, this is all the time.
this is just when they put the bladders up at the dam.
It's up all the time. And then if it's slow like it is now, they put the bladder up and they wait for it to slow the river down, and then they drop it to make a levee.
Right.
So when it
Yeah.
rains, we don't think that they drop it through time, and that's why we have a lot of problems.
Yeah, we can't.
I'm just explaining to you about the water quality, it's terrible.
Yeah, well, there are clearly issues, and letting it go more quickly would certainly help, but that's beyond our expertise. It is stuff that a community should discuss with the managers of the dams. It's something that you can, as you go forward, as I was saying, on other tributaries, whole slew of communities are getting involved, and so it would be a great discussion to ramp up, so that you all who are affected, as you're describing, you all who are affected by management of a hydro facility should have a say in how that's managed.
Especially now since it's becoming a health problem.
Okay. We do have to wrap it up from a perspective that we have a long meeting tonight, and I don't know if Riverkeeper, if you guys want to go use my office and some people want to talk, but remember, Riverkeeper's just testing the water. They don't really have a say over, the bladder, all that kind of stuff. They're just testing and sharing the information with us. So, but I mean, if they're willing to stay a little bit and talk with you guys, and you want to use my office, you're more than welcome to. But I do know that the Scouts want to leave at 8:30. I do know that we have other people here to present to us. So what I'd like to do, is there any other questions just to quickly wrap up? Jim?
The only question I have is, should we advise the contestants of the regatta when they fall into the water that it's slightly contaminated?
I think they already know.
They might. Let me finish my question. Thank you. That they might get sick, and we don't want anybody to get sick. So, I mean, maybe we could put a poster up, something saying, take precautions.
Disclaimer?
A disclaimer would be good. Disclaimer would be very good.
Okay, I know, Miriam, you had a quick question?
Yeah. Are the county health departments involved in this with any authority? And is there any way in terms of zoning about septic that you can prevent this from getting worse in terms of land use and specifically septic?
Is that a question for your...
It'd be questions for you guys.
It's a county health official question.
You want to take it?
That would take
So to restate your question, you're asking if you can do some zoning revisions to your septic, how your septic systems are installed.
I mean, I realize that's not your expertise, but it sounds like you've also worked on PACE or whatever, you know, in terms of recommendations, in places that don't have a sewer system, where it's homeowners.
Yes, that is a great strategy and assessment to do. I would definitely recommend where you have septic systems in place to get an assessment of how that soil is doing and, you know, do you have the right density of septic to the surrounding area to manage it. And then you can also have incentives for people to get maintenance and to inspect their septics. There have been communities, for example, Westchester and Staten Island, where they had enough problems with their septic that they actually passed some county laws requiring inspection and maintenance plans because they were having some widespread failures. And there have been other communities where the septic volume overwhelmed what the landscape was able to absorb, and they had plans to get onto municipal systems to address that. So that's definitely a good study to do because septic maintenance is pretty sketchy and it's not really regulated on the state level. So.
Okay, one last in the back, and then we're going to wrap up.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to, on behalf of Troop 172, thank you for having us. I don't want to hold up the Scouts family.
Okay, sure, please.
So guys, if you could quietly just come through.
Thank you so much for visiting. Thank you for visiting. If you go out there, and then you can come right there.
There we go. Okay, super.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jerry.
And one representation by Riverkeeper.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right.
Okay, so there's one.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that one thing that I've tried to do, I helped invite Riverkeeper here tonight, but one reason I did that is because I've been living on the Wallkill for a long time, for about 17 years. I see river otters almost every single year in my backyard. What's that?
Use the mic.
I see river otters almost every single year in my backyard. And so I'm obviously concerned about the quality of the river. I've set up a site called SaveTheWallkill.org. What we're trying to do as community members, friends of the Wallkill, whoever, is to try and, number one, get the river listed on this 303D list, which is an impaired water body list. It's going to give us visibility at the EPA level. If, for example, the town of New Paltz in the future may need to get funds to upgrade its treatment plant, by having it on that list, it'll be more important. The other thing is the DEC was approached to attend this meeting tonight. They declined. But however, they were helpful in adding to us that getting town or the state board of health involved is another tactic to get this river listed on the 303D list. But that's probably the first step that we need to take as a community, is to get the river recognized as polluted. The state doesn't see it that way. They think you can fish and swim in it now. So at least to get that changed. So go to SaveTheWallkill.org. I'll be building the site and reaching out to everybody here as well in the future to try and get some kind of action going. But this is just the beginning. Thank everybody that's here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for helping putting this together. Thank you guys for coming. Again, if anybody wants to go use my office and talk, please feel free.
Before you all head out, I just want to make one quick thing,
listen to Dan,
if you don't mind. So, Richard and I have been chatting quite a bit about this, and one of the things that I'd like to do, too, is we've had a big discussion, and I think a lot of people will say, well, what do you do from here? And I think it's pretty obvious from what we've talked about today is that this is not something that we as a singular community can do. Obviously, we can play a role in that, but it's not something we can do alone. So one of the things that I'd like to start doing, and I'm saying this in public too, in hopes that there are people out there who'd be willing to help me, is to kind of start a coalition, if you will, of municipalities, whether that be elected leaders or volunteers, to meet as a group to see what we can do on a local level through legislation and making ourselves aware of what's going on in our local part of the river, as well as then being able to advocate to state and federal officials. It's one thing for our community to do that, but it's another thing if you have 10 different towns to have different representatives and speak with them. So I know that's very ambitious, but I'd like to try to start that discussion. If anyone in here is interested in that, you can certainly find my contact info on the town website, and I'd certainly love to have you involved.
I'm just giving helping.
And there you go, I got my first volunteer.
And you are?
My name
Dan
is
Torres.
Dan Torres. Town council.
And I'd like a motion from the town board to appoint Dan as our official liaison for the Community River Coalition.
So moved.
All in favor for the board?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Congratulations, Dan.
Wow, that was great. I'm very honored, thank you.
Just one question, Ralph.
Sure.
We are honored to have
Did
you.
you hear Dave Klauser's summary?
Well, what happened was Dave was supposed to be here tonight, but he couldn't. But Tom is going to give us an update, so we'll do that.
Because here's just a funny apropos to Riverkeeper as well as Dave Klauser's report. I read in the New Paltz Times, I think it was last week's, on the right-hand page was a little article about Riverkeeper and the Walker River, this topic tonight. And on the left-hand page was Dave Klauser talking about looking for alternate water sources because of the closing of the aqueduct in 2016, and that they were looking at the Walker River because of how clean it is.
Well, I don't think it specifically said how clean it was. I think they're looking for alternatives other than Walker River. I just think it's part of the.
Tom gives an update.
Surprisingly clean.
Well, I think there's also, the differences there are the ability. Well, no, listen, the differences are the ability to swim in it and be exposed to it as is versus its treatability in terms of drinking water. And when they tested it, it was covered with ice, and it was surprisingly clean because nothing was able to go into it at that time, especially. But so I could see why those things are very contradictory sounding. But when you think about it, versus the raw water versus something that is treatable, there is a difference.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not drinking it, but thank you.
I understand.
Okay. So is everybody okay to just keep going, or does anybody on the board want to take a quick break, or everybody okay to keep going?
Give it 2 minutes.
Why don't we? Okay. So why don't we? I mean, we do have somebody who's supposed to be presenting to us. Do you want to join us, Rebecca? You want to join us? Okay. So, I mean, we do have Carol to do a presentation to both boards, but Tom, if you want to take a moment while the people are here to do a quick update on the DEP.
Sure. Dave Klauser could do a better job, regardless of what your feelings are about the piece in the New Paltz Times. But I'm not a hydrogeologist nor an engineer. I'm a philosopher by training. But I'm interested in water, and I'm the point person for the village board, working with the hydrogeologists and the engineers in what is called Freshwater Exploration Phase 2. It's not the end of the story, it's the middle of the story. So if you jump to conclusions, then you will be jumping before the end of the story. We have drilled more than 100 test wells until now, looking for groundwater, not surface water, groundwater. We have a number of interesting findings, including during the last couple of weeks, several relatively large gravel beds that would indicate water separate from the river water in gravel that could be in beds that have been there for 11,000 years. We will continue testing those. During the next several weeks, we'll drill a couple of bedrock wells, so going even below those, looking into the deeper areas of what were pre-glacial stream beds under the Wallkill or abutting the Wallkill, but in the Wallkill Valley. There are, I mean, I can say there's a fractured trace analysis being done, but I won't say that.
But you just said that.
I know that. But I thought I would be witty at the same time as giving you this report. Dave, I'm going to read from what Dave has said. It presently appears that a water supply using several connected wells has potential as a backup water supply source, which is to say, you might get only 100 to 150 gallons a minute from any particular source. We might, by accumulating a number of these sources, get 400 or 500 or 600 gallons per minute, which would come close, but not actually achieve a substitute source of water for when the shutdown occurs. Does everybody know that all of this has to do with the projected closures of the Catskill Aqueduct during a time which is as yet not quite defined, but probably occurring in 2016 and 2017 for 10 weeks at a time, 2 shutdowns, no water flowing through those. 70% approximately of our water typically comes from that source. We are doing reservoir modeling. We have very nice reservoirs up the hills, but they don't provide us with more than about 30% of our water most of the time, although sometimes, as now, we might draw all of our water from them because they're full. And they're full of good water because we've had that kind of winter. We need a better model, though, for telling us exactly what we can anticipate for 10-week periods, whether it's during a wet period or a dry period. But I'm sure you now all understand the differences. There is a sampling being done of the Wallkill. You'll notice that Riverkeeper, by the way, has never done sampling in March or April. We were doing sampling in February, March, and April. During February, March, and April of this year, I'm not saying anything about other years, because we have no knowledge of that. During this year, the water has been quite clean and could be treated to make it potable without a great deal of difficulty. What will happen in May, June, and July is an altogether other matter. We don't yet have that information. We have also explored an intermunicipal water system, what will we call it, relationship with Lloyd. We've had several meetings with Lloyd, which has Hudson River water and their own reservoirs. Their reservoirs are at the present time providing all of their water also. They're not drawing down any water from the Hudson River. They have about 3 million gallons a day, which would satisfy their needs and ours. If we came to an agreement and if we could afford, not we, because we couldn't afford it, but if it were affordable to build the connection between Lloyd and here. And they, of course, would be happy to work with us in doing this. Several of us attended recently, last weekend, actually, a water conservation conference down in Westchester. And we left there with greater hope than we might have. Because there's only so much you can save, it seems. But some very large municipalities have figured out ways to save a great deal of water. And every time you save 100 gallons a minute, you don't have to get 100 gallons a minute. And we will be in touch with some of the more successful groups around the country. There were people from out west, Denver and Florida, that had particularly successful campaigns of both education and regulation that made water conservation an interesting and achievable objective. That's where we're at right now.
Florida's in the south.
Florida's in the south? Yes.
Okay.
No, I understand. Okay. We shan't get into quibbles. Florida.
Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, so with that, we're transferring over from water to emergencies and how we deal with water that creates emergencies. So we have to, thank you so much for coming down, we really appreciate it. Chris, could you just move that out of the way? Rebecca, you want to come join us? Water, can't stop drinking.
I think that's what they just said.
I know.
I don't like to source.
I don't know what to tell you.
We'll go over a little bit there. This Carol's going to come over here. Okay, so, just wait. No, come up to the table. Just wait till Tom's done.
That's how it's Friday.
I'll just wait till Tom's done talking and Jeff comes back.
Tom did enough talking tonight. Sit down.
Next thing is flooding.
I'll sit there. Hi, Carol.
Okay, if everybody,
Come.
guys,
Just because they're
guys,
on the Walker Rivers mean they wander off whenever you want.
okay.
Yelling at me across the...
Okay, so if I can ask can you ask her to... Oh, good. Okay, we're going to try to get going. So what we have now is Carol Connolly. If you guys all remember, Gail Gallery and the Emergency Operation Group had asked us to hire somebody through the town and village to basically be the staff person to keep all the emergency stuff going and happening. And Carol, who had really pulled together the operations after Hurricane Sandy to collect all the food, the clothes, get it down to Far Rockaway, Red Hook, all those, happened. Carol pulled it together.
That was a huge joint out.
No, I know. I was going to get to everybody else. It's just that it started with you. You asked if we could do it.
Yes.
You got the word out. Rebecca jumped in. Other people jumped in. And between all the people in this community coming together, there was a major relief effort that came out of New Paltz. It was amazing. Rebecca carried it on long after Carol got back to work at Town Hall, and you kept it going. So it was a real amazingly joint effort. So Carol was willing to take on the responsibility of convening the Emergency Operations Center meetings for all the people that are on it, try to get things going. And so Carol asked to come to present to both boards tonight what we've been doing so far and what needs to be done moving forward and the help that she needs from the two boards to be able to implement the work that we've empowered her to do. So with that, I will turn it over to Carol.
Thank you, Susan. Since being part of the local emergency planning committee, I've been going through the history, and I have to say I'm in awe of the fantastic work that our volunteers have been doing over the years. It's really incredible. I want to give special thanks to the executive committee, which is Gail Gallery, Jeff Salt, Glenn Phillips, and Mike Beninati, and they're a great group to work with, and we're lucky to have them in our community. There's been a lot of events going on this spring. We convened the Emergency Planning Committee meeting. We met on March 12th. It was almost a year to the day when we met last year, post-Sandy. We got off to a good start. The goal is to have that committee convene quarterly. The next two meetings are June 11th and September 10th. Both are at 3 o'clock. At the rescue squad. Gail Gallery had convened the subcommittee of facilities and equipment, which basically did an analysis of what we had. And those improvements and recommendations were incorporated into the draft of the emergency preparedness plan that we have. We've updated it. And it reflects these things. Originally, Town Hall was the center, but Town Hall does not have a generator, so now it's the rescue squad. So there's a couple of little details that were updated. There was a recommendation to bring it before the board, but in speaking with the county, I was given some ideas that I wanted to investigate before we asked for final board approval. The training that's been going on with Chris's coordination. We have the entire town highway and buildings and grounds department now have their minimum 2 courses that they need to meet federal requirements. We managed to get it done right before the session started, Susan has approved for the remaining trainings to be done for the town during business hours, so this way we really can make sure that everyone, all the municipal employees are trained. It's a federal requirement that everyone has at least the basic training. I reached out to Kate Bunker at the Village, and I gave her a spreadsheet so that she could track them. I'm willing to track for her. All I need is the certificates of completion for the courses, and it would also help me keep track of, well, you know, because as you get new employees, maybe someone needs some new training, or maybe they want to further their training, so I can see, okay, we have a good number of people that, you know, I could definitely call. I can call the NIMS trainer to come in and run through it. All these trainings are available online, so anyone could independently do these trainings and just get me a copy of the certificate. They don't necessarily have to sit through the training, but my understanding is it's much more pleasant to do it in a group. But there is flexibility. Okay.
Just to stop for just one quick second, so we as two municipal governments understand, it's our obligation to make sure that our employees are trained with these, you know, minimum certifications, so in an emergency they know how to operate. And because of this federal guidelines, you know, and then of course, when it comes time, and God forbid in a storm, and you want to do reimbursement, that if you don't meet the criteria, the basic criteria of having done the kind of training, sometimes you won't get the money. So, you know, Carol's been really on top of making sure at least our, you know, building grounds highway guys have the training. And so if, you know, if you guys want Carol to have the authority to sort of reach out to your employees and get them scheduled, or if Rachel or something.
That would be lovely if she wants to work with Katie.
You know, I mean, but, you know, if it's okay for you to formally give her authority to be, so she's not overstepping boundaries. I mean, it's not our employees.
I formally give you authority.
Yeah, tonight I was going to ask for the board to designate a contact person, maybe.
Katie Bunker.
Okay. Regarding training, board members need to be trained, and you need to have higher training than the basic training. So anyone, please email me at lepc.chair@townofnewfalls.
While you're talking,
or I will be
Kevin, you have to
emailing
have training.
you to make sure that everybody's caught up.
I've done my NIMS. You did your NIMS. You did the first one NIMS. We did one NIMS. We have to do a second.
I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done.
Dan's got to get trained.
I believe I'm done. I think I've done all my NIMS.
Me too.
Oh, yeah, no, I think Tom might not be the only one because he's too new.
Too new.
But some of us have done one. We haven't done the second.
I did them a while ago, so I would do them again.
We've just done it.
So I have, I have a spreadsheet to track it. We'll deal with that later. It's an easy way to, because as we get new people, it'll be easy to keep track.
I'm highly trained.
Okay, that's great. That's absolutely
What
great.
is what do you think about the email you gave?
Local Emergency Planning Chair, lepc.chair@townofnewpaltz.org. And now, as far as further employee training, we're doing the first two courses, the introductory NIMS course and the follow-up, the I-100. We have them, they're tentatively scheduled for May. I just need confirmation. And I will be announcing those dates. There's also a higher training that's being offered by the county, the I-300. So if you have 700, 100, and 200, 300 is recommended for board members and upper management, required for board members and upper management. And that will be at Ulster Hose Company number 5 from 8 to 4 on October 14th to the 16th. But I have that information if anybody wants to contact me. Now, due to, we're going to do a planning exercise yesterday, but there were several scheduled. We were going to meet at the PD, but due to a few different things that came up, we rescheduled it for May 29th. Now, this exercise is, they call it a tabletop exercise. You sit around a table and somebody writes a scenario. Glenn Phillips wrote an interesting scenario, things that would, the idea is when you have an emergency situation, you know, let's say something happened, you know, so you have fire department can go take care of it, or maybe the police can go take care of it. It's when there are multiple situations, or when it becomes, when your emergency services become stressed, that's when, you know, a determination has to be made to activate the EOC, which is, I mean, in which we've gone through this. The town has had several real-life exercises with Sandy and Irene and Lee. So anyway, so we'll be doing that tabletop exercise in May, and we'll be assessing that and be reporting on that. I went to the Ulster Corps event. It was more of it was a volunteer event, but the big focus was on disaster preparedness, and there were a lot of interesting, a lot of different concerns that came up that we maybe don't always think about. One of the things is people do not evacuate if they have a pet many times. They don't want to leave. I don't want to leave my cat. I don't want to leave my dog. So that might be something we could look at in the future. And there was another more not so run-of-the-mill request. What do you do with people with mental health issues? You know, do they have their medication? How does someone cope with this when the day-to-day life is hard to cope with? So these were different things that were brought up and could use some looking into to see what we could do. The more prepared we are, the more self-reliant we are, the better outcome we're going to have. It's a prevention. Now, there's another event where I'm going to, Susan's going also, and I invite anyone else to go if you're interested. It's a communications event put on the Institute for Disaster Mental Health, and it's titled, Why Don't People Listen? And it's like you tell them to evacuate and they don't evacuate. You know, so the idea is to really address some of the psychological issues as to what can we do as a community to help keep each other safe. So I will get back to you on that.
That's tomorrow, right?
That is tomorrow, all day. The Communications Subcommittee, they met this week also. They want to bring some of their concerns back to the committee, but I will say that they did discuss a new P25 radio system, which is now the new federal standard. The idea is that, all community, you wouldn't think, but all fire departments can't talk to each other, all police departments can't talk to each other. The fire department can't necessarily talk to the police department, okay? That was remediated some time ago in our town where we have handheld radios, okay, but I'll get to that in a second. But this P25 system is very expensive, and they were thinking this might be something the county takes on, and I know there's some issues with the county system. Regarding our local frequency, every department has a handheld radio, the fire department, the schools, everyone is part of the emergency planning committee. And once a month, the PD conducts a test and they do a radio check. But we all have handhelds, and no one has a base. So they discussed that maybe we should purchase a base and locate it in our current EOC, possibly the rescue squad. But I know they're going to discuss this further, and my understanding is, I guess it projects better, or you always have someone manning the radio. Okay, so then that would need, and during an event, it would need like a staffing of someone at all times to operate the radio to make sure that everybody is in communication. Because as we all know, sometimes with power out, we don't have cell phones or computers. And the last thing is grants. I did some quick research on grants. Right now, the only federal grants that I found were offered to the state. And they were saying only one application per state, so I'm hoping that, considering that we've been a state of need in recent years, that maybe we'll get some planning money and then they'll offer it to communities. And then the only other thing, I really didn't want to touch on this just yet, but seeing the Boy Scouts here, I thought it was a good opportunity. We have had in the past a citizen corps. And Citizen Corps is a group of citizens who are trained, and what they do is they give support help to emergency services. So you have the fire department doing something, and you have the police doing something, and everyone's busy, but I need a runner on a bicycle. I need someone to go bike over here and tell this one. I need someone to help direct traffic. So I have a list of people that have volunteered for Citizen Corps in the past, and I am looking to breathe some life into that and get some people trained and on call. So stay tuned for that. And that is all.
Thank you. Joe, do you want to tell a quick one thing that you learned that you said was really interesting in terms of the one area hit the hardest, the most in the state?
Oh, the county that has had the most emergencies in the state is Ulster. Yeah.
Since when?
This was a statistic they gave at the Ulster Corps meeting. and I think it was Art Snyder was there, and I'm not sure, I think,
This is
yeah.
last year, right? This past couple of years?
Just recently, we have been, I don't know if it was actually, obviously it's not 2014, but in the past year, I believe. So, I mean, this counts all, all the different areas in Ulster that we don't really, the more low-key events.
Does anybody have any questions for Carol or anything that they want to ask or know? Or
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol, so much. Which, just going off of that, on the agenda, we do actually have a joint resolution on emergency service coordination for Ulster County, and we might as well do that now. What that is relative to was what Carol was saying, and one of the things that we've been finding out is that the fire departments, the system is really, the Ulster County system is very, very antiquated. And what's happening now is a fire call that might come into New Paltz is heard over in Warsing, and it's not heard here in New Paltz or in Gardner or whatever, and calls are being dropped, and it's a really problematic system. And I guess in order to get this system up and going would cost a lot of money through the county. So, if we on a local level could actually pass a resolution together supporting the county, putting in the resources to do this new, to upgrade this antiquated system. We've been constantly getting visits from Charlie Carson and people who are on the fire advisory board of the county talking to us about the problem. So we did put together a joint resolution on supporting an upgrade to the Ulster County Comprehensive Emergency Radio System. It was on the website.
Why are we just getting this tonight?
No, you aren't. I sent it to you on Friday.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's these guys, and they hadn't seen it either.
No, I sent it to everybody on Friday.
It was on.
It was sent on Friday, and it's also posted. This is just copies.
I guess
No, I
we
sent
just didn't see it, I guess.
It was sent to you Friday at about 4:30 Friday, and then it was also posted. Because I know you guys have to have everything up every Friday.
Yeah.
So this is just copies for everybody if you don't have. And it's very quick, very simple. Whereas the Ulster County Emergency Communication System is antiquated, whereas there is concern for the continued and future functionality of the system, whereas an aged emergency communication system is prone to failure, whereas the need for immediate and uninterrupted communication is necessary for the safety of our residents and emergency responders, whereas the need for immediate and uninterrupted communication is necessary for the ability for emergency providers to respond, resolve the town and the village of New Paltz lend their support to an Ulster County upgrade to create a seamless emergency communication system. So it's just basically lending support, asking the county to try to start working on this. So,
I'll wait for the motion on the floor.
would somebody like to move it?
I'll move it.
Would somebody like to second it?
I'll second.
You can't move it and second it.
No, she moved it.
Oh, no, each board has to move and second.
I'll move it for the town.
I'll move it for the bill.
I'll second it for the town.
Anyone?
For purposes of discussion, I'll second. This, Chris, this is a New Paltz Rising item. Where are we on it?
We discussed this in New Paltz Rising. We actually had a special meeting with the chief of the fire department, Blue, myself on this. It really didn't go any further. Again, the P3 system is $3,000 per radio. There's some technical work out, being that you wouldn't want the highway department talking technically to the police department in an emergency situation directly. So, and it was...
So it went by the wayside?
Yeah, we did bring in, we had the advantage of possibly bringing in Nicomco as a vendor, just to take
But
take
the
us
county
through some of
had, the county had listed this as a New Paltz Rising project as well.
If it's on the county's list, then that's a separate list other than New Paltz's. They wouldn't tell us in the New Paltz Rising, don't put it on your list because we already have it on
Well, that's the
ours.
way they were whipping it around.
Things whipped around pretty
That's why I asked you
quick.
where it is.
It has nothing to do now with the,
Okay, and
to my knowledge.
What I can say, I was up yesterday in Albany at the New York Rising presentation. We are all getting our money. That's a definite. We're getting our money. How the money gets implemented and where we go with it remains to be seen, but we're getting the money. They also made another $50 million available for incentive grants for, for another round of extra $3 million that towns could get. And so there is a possibility of still trying to get this county system maybe funded through New York Rising. Then there was an idea that I had today talking to somebody about the fact that because so many towns in Ulster County and New York Rising communities we're all getting $3 million each, that at some point, maybe we all say we take some of the New York Rising money from each of the communities, because we're all getting $3 million. If we all took $200,000 and threw it into a pot, we could come up with $1 million pretty quickly to implement a county-wide system.
Right.
So this has to be like, it's got to be top importance that we just keep working and moving on. And
So what is the purpose of this?
It's to basically lend support to the county to work on upgrading the antiquated system, and whatever it is. It's really just the purpose of lending support to the county to say that we, the town and village of New Paltz, are putting this as a priority and saying this is important to get some kind of emergency system upgraded because it's just too dangerous for it
But I
not
just
to.
wanted
Yeah.
the two boards to know
Yeah.
that this is the New Paltz Rising issue, so.
So you have to, and what Carol was saying was, we're having a conversation, and if I'm wrong, correct me, we're having a conversation here locally about what we can do with our own radio system, so all of our emergency providers are together, but then there's also a movement to do it on a county level.
So we're just doing a resolution of support, no money involved.
Right, nothing, there's nothing. It's just asking, letting the county know we support them moving on, trying to get a system up. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion so carried for both boards. Okay. So we have the presentation, we had the planning update, we had the water study update, we had this, so the two things left is just, we'll do Moriello Pool Maintenance and Capital, and then we'll go to the last issue we have together. So we might, these groundhog moments where we just do this, we do the same thing over and over and over again, so you want to basically scream uncle. So the conversation...
No, we never did scream uncle together. We always just screamed at each other.
I know, so my point is that we might finally be at that moment in time where we actually, Groundhog Day actually moves to the next day.
Okay, I'm suggesting that you, Susan, Nancy Bronco, Chris, Blue, and myself get together and refine these lists. There is some disagreement as to what are capital projects and what aren't. So I think it'd be good for you and Nancy as the two financial people to have a quick meeting and review what is a capital improvement, what is a pool maintenance issue, and I brought the contract with me. A capital improvement for the purpose of this agreement shall be deemed to mean an addition or alteration to the property which substantially adds to the value of the property or appreciably prolongs the useful life of the property, becomes part of the real property, or is permanently affixed to the real property, and is intended to become a permanent installation. There are some things on this list we need to refine. So I would suggest we have a little meeting together.
Can you repeat the proposal? I don't know if Jason...
I got the gist of it.
I think, though, just the one thing, if possible, though, and I don't even know if we would argue as much as you think over some of it,
Okay.
but there are about $19,000, potentially up to $19,000 of improvements that we need that are capital improvements prior to the pool opening or as close to as possible. I'd like to discuss tonight.
Then they have to be bid, and we have to have a discussion.
I didn't say we weren't going to bid them. So
He said, what he just said was...
I didn't say we weren't going to bid them. I just said we need to discuss them tonight. I don't need a
Well, you
lesson
want to
on.
do that tonight. That wasn't what I understood what we were doing.
That's okay, let me just, okay, for the moment, you're right, what was on the agenda was capital versus pool and discussing it and agreeing to it. What Jeff is saying, being that Jeff went over with Dan last week to go with Chris and Bill to go over the pool, they want to bring back to the two boards what they've learned and put it on the table for discussion. So...
For tonight.
Yes, because the pool's opening very soon. So why don't we just finish this up and then let them at least talk and then we can decide where to go.
Well,
But-
wouldn't that be folded into Sally's proposal?
No, because what...
Which would be to remove the conversation from this table and put it into the
And we could put
subcommittees.
that discussion in that same...
That's right. That's the intent.
No, what Jeff
Yeah,
is,
but
I don't want to...
what Susan's saying then is that if we at least have the conversation after we iron out capital improvements and maintenance, is what Jeff throws on the table is that perhaps while the two boards are together, there can be a vote tonight.
Yeah,
That's the
not-
difference
that's a-
between.
that's a
Yeah, I
very long
understand what you're
conversation.
saying.
Wait, stop.
I don't have anything.
Everyone could please stop so I can speak for myself. I'm sitting
I
here
just
at
wanted
the
to finish
table.
this, that was all.
So please,
Go ahead.
Sally, I don't need a lesson on what's capital or not capital right now. What I'm stating is there are some maintenance items that need to be addressed ASAP. The majority of them do not require bids. They're under the bid requirement amount. One of them would require a bid. Is the boards, the joint boards here, interested in getting a safe park open for 4 non-bid items? Can we discuss that tonight and agree on it?
Well, Jeff,
And that would be $7,000. We are asking that it would be $3,500 from each board be spent.
Can I just say something?
Well, no, you can't. That was my
You're
question.
adding something to the agenda.
I'm not. It is-
This is
I'm
on
not-
the agenda.
I'm not adding to the agenda. It says Moriello Pool.
That's what this is
Okay,
about, and
but,
you know
okay, you know what, actually, look, come on, guys.
I'm trying to open
we're
a
here-
pool.
We're here to get along, okay? First and foremost, we made a major step forward to get Blue and Chris together to pull this together.
Right.
Okay? So let's just close up on Sally's recommendation. Chris and Blue had no problems on this. They came up with it, they're bringing it to us. If you're saying that you have problems, Sally, so you want a special meeting, so you can explain to me what you have a problem with,
No,
and you
we
want me to meet with Nancy, we'll do that.
Because there are 3 items that Blue does not agree.
Okay, but then, I don't understand, if Blue
Well,
met with Chris...
Chris and I have talked. This is for the board to decide. Filter sand, pool water are maintenance, they are not capital.
Wait a second.
Filter sand is like buying
26 and
salt.
27 on the capital improvement list.
Yeah, 26 and 27.
Why didn't you just say that?
Okay, are the 2 issues that we believe, and we could go with the signage. I'm not sure signage is ever a capital improvement. If we can approve, you've got some duplicates on the maintenance, but that's your maintenance, so I would suggest that we could approve, if we can approve and agree upon, that the issues which are capital improvements are listed as capital improvements 1 through 28, and deleting 26 and 27 because I believe, and Nancy believes, and Blue believes, are maintenance and they are not capital. So I will move that. So we
I'll
can
second that for the village.
And I will move that for the town.
Second.
Okay, well, before discussion, I'd like to just ask Chris, since Chris and Blue sat down and worked on this together, that when Chris and Blue met, they must have felt filter sand and pool water was capital, but you're saying now Blue...
We discussed it today, and sand is like salt on your side.
You know what, at the end of the day, let's just move it and let's... All in favor? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motions are carried. Okay, so we're done.
We move in second?
Yes, we moved and seconded.
But we haven't voted. All in favor?
26 and 27.
I seconded. All in favor?
Okay, so we didn't delete 24, we just deleted
And
26
did
and
you want,
27.
and do you want to do something with 24 also, so we can
No.
close this list?
We deleted 26 and 27, we will go to 24 is on.
We agree on capital.
Okay? Okay, so that means everything on here, 1 through 25 and number 28, we all agree capital improvements, and 1 through 28 on maintenance is all maintenance, and we would never have to discuss this again if they meet these criteria.
The
If
only
outside-
thing, right, the village agrees, the only things we ever have to discuss are capital improvements. We don't have to discuss maintenance
Right.
at all. And they are issues 1 through 28, deleting 26 and 27.
Right.
That's what we moved to.
Now, the only thing where there is a little bit of an issue is just from the perspective of how to manage when there's an emergency situation where Chris is down there, it's an emergency, it's a capital improvement, it has to be done immediately, or it could be like a Board of Health issue.
We sort it out later.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so if we're as 2 boards
We have
giving Chris...
mutual aid, so we would be calling on each other anyway.
Okay, but I'm just saying that we're, as a 2 boards, comfortable giving Chris and Blue the authority that if it's an emergency situation...
Whoever's there first would have to deal with it anyway. I mean, they're not
Okay.
going to wait
I
on
would
the
think
other.
that,
Okay,
I would think that would be you and the
Jason.
mayor, not Blue and Chris.
okay, no, but I mean,
Well,
Blue and
they-
Chris can come
they
to myself and
respond, but
Jason,
then-
and Jason and I can, like, I can call
Then,
Jason and say,
yes.
Jason, I need blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, and you guys are all okay with that? Fine, great, okay.
You want that in
Now,
motion?
Sure,
I think you should.
okay.
You gonna move it, Jean?
Jean, go ahead.
Oh. I want to be heard.
Behave and do it nicely so I can agree with
I'll
you.
be polite. I'll move that if there's an emergency situation at Moriello Pool, that Blue and Chris need to work resolve the situation, and the boards will accept that.
I'll second.
Okay,
I'll make the motion for the village.
you seconded for the,
I think we second, I
She moved
second.
it as a joint motion, so that's why
It
I
just-
seconded her motion.
We both always have to vote
Yeah, then I'll
separately.
move.
So who's
So I'll second it.
Jeff.
Thank
I
you,
second
Jeff.
it.
It's just Rosanna taking notes on who
You can't
can
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
all in favor for the town?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried, so now.
Wait, I think-
Wait.
Could I just ask a
Sure,
question?
please.
So if I have like a, which just happened, the RPZ blowout, which is the backflow. Now when I go in and I find the thing's flooding, I need to call Blue.
No, you just need to
Only
call.
if it's capital.
No, you need to call me if it's capital, and I can call Jason and get approval that we're
As
doing
long as
it.
it's a maintenance issue, I'm good to just
You're good to
go
go.
along. Okay.
Only if it's capital.
But it's not going to
It's-
happen.
it's-
We just put in brand-new pumps.
Capitals don't.
Well, capital's an
Usually
extended,
not emergency
It's not going to happen.
situation.
but, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. I just, so I had clarification.
Okay, so now I'd like to
But
turn it
think,
over
but
to...
think positive though, Chris. You just put in all new equipment for 50,000. It ain't going to happen.
Water's on, I don't see it shooting over the buildings.
There we go. Look at that. Good news.
Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to Jeff to talk about what,
I'm sorry, we never actually talked about whether, there was, I'm sorry, I just have an issue making decisions about something that we haven't seen before tonight.
none of us have seen anything, and until Jeff gets
I
a chance
know.
to talk, we don't have
That
to make a
was- if you
decision, but we
don't
might want to based on...
Remember, he said he doesn't, we can talk for him. I thought I was just helping out.
Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Sorry, I thought you had explained it already. I didn't realize there was
No, he
more to it.
hasn't.
No. If anyone doesn't want to approve it, it's fine. We went down, did an inspection. The immediate items which would not require bids is one is mulch for the playground, so it can maintain its ADA compliance. Also, it's, Chris, what is the name of a playground safety compliance? There's an actual, you don't remember either?
Playground, I know there's a playground inspector.
Yeah, we would fail a playground inspection now. The mulch for it has to be a certified mulch for it, and that would run about $4,000. There's a sidewalk that needs to be installed that would go from the lower lot over to the walkway. It's a very wet area. That would be about $2,000. The fountain broke over the winter. So one of our water fountains is broken. If anyone's familiar with it, it looks like an upside down L or the number 7. And the top head portion of it is broken off. That we believe we can do for about $1,000. And that would include replacement. Now all this would be labor done by the town and if possible some of it jointly with the village. I know Blue and Chris have worked together in sharing labor. And all of those really would be required to open the pool. The big ticket item, which brings it way up, is the slide. We used to have 2 slides. We're now down to 1 slide. They don't make any other parts for it anymore. In fact, we use parts from the last slide to keep the current one going. That one may or may not last the season. This probably is something that I don't even know if I'm ready to, actually I know I'm not. We do have to go to bid on it. It was going to be about $10,000 or $12,000. And we do have to go bid on it. That's what they go for at commercial rates. We have to have more meetings on it, discuss it. I think I'd like to go down there with a couple members of the village board, and we'll have Bill there, and we'll go and take a look and then look at some possible items we want to write up for a bid. But there is no such thing as an inexpensive, compliant slide. So just for the smaller items, though, I mean, right, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for $3,500 each, we could have everything in compliance, including getting the fountain fixed, and then we can get the pool open.
I'll move on behalf of the village, the fountain and the sidewalk. Mulch I won't, and I will also move that we participate in a bid for a new slide.
I'll second.
And I'll move for the town.
Second.
And then just for discussion, if we don't do the mulch, we can't open the playground. It is below. No, you can't. You have to.
We already talked about that.
You have to use certified mulch. That is.
Mulch is maintenance.
Yeah,
It's
what,
not
we have to,
She's
we
right.
were just talking about the capital
Right.
versus
She's right.
maintenance.
She's right, mulch is maintenance.
Okay.
That's just,
The playground equipment is capital,
Okay.
all right?
I'm good with that. Then the town will pay for the mulching. But yeah, we can't get our. I don't know if we could get ours certified. It is actually UV sterilized. Each piece needs to be a certain size. There can be no sharp edges on it. There's actual playground inspectors, and it has to be completely compliant. So unfortunately, no, we cannot use, the days of using wood chips that you generate from your own community can no longer just be used on their own. There are very strict requirements on it.
Because we've had playgrounds or schools come in and take it
Yeah.
for that purpose.
Maybe we invest in the equipment to
But
accommodate
mo-
support.
But we will take care of that, so
Can
yes.
we vote on us?
Yes, so the sign,
All in favor on the village side, or any discussion on the village side?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? But only because I don't like spending money without having a chance to think
I
about
agree.
it.
Again, just this is all emergency pieces. There's a much longer list that Bill would love to have us do, but these are to open it up.
And you want to
Move it on to
And you
time?
call it.
Okay. I didn't realize it. If you told me, I would have done it a long time ago. Are we taking it from our...
Pool, we have money in the pool. We have a capital equipment in the pool.
Do we?
Where are we taking it? Yes.
Well, usually we take stuff for capital for the pool out of our Parks and Recreation Fund.
Let's get through this.
Well, okay, why don't we figure tonight, for the purposes, we'll move it just out of the pool line, and if we have to make an amendment, we can later.
Yes.
Okay, so we can just move right along. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried.
And then just one, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a projected date for the pool opening at this point?
Be the same tradition, please don't ask me the exact dates, Chris, the same traditional dates, open by
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend, and then weekends up until school starting, and when school starts, it'll go to the full schedule.
You mean when school closes?
School, what did I say? Opens, closes.
We started
They want to have that
We know what you meant.
event there too.
Oh, this SOS? We should probably figure that out.
We got to see if they're going to have that. The other piece is, only one other side note
So wait a
is...
second, we did all vote, right?
Yes.
Was that
Yeah,
it?
we voted.
Okay.
And then the other piece is the Shade Tree Commission or someone, have they been planting trees down at Moriello Pool?
They have been stolen.
Yeah.
What?
All of the trees that we planted last Arbor Day are now all stolen and gone. Chris and I have been in.
Not all of
No, well, we were
Oh,
just...
two chestnuts are still there, and one
the one on the top and two on
and
the
the one
side,
on the
so-
top.
The juju?
Juju was stolen.
So I guess the only point being, though, is if the Shade Tree Commission's going to plant any more down there, could they check, though, with Chris or check with
We are
Bill?
in communication
They dig
always
them
with
up.
Chris.
Because one of them is, one of them was planted and there's a hole there, so maybe that's where the one was stolen.
Oh, and some
But-
were dug
but-
out and filled in.
But right where one or two of them were,
It's been reported to the police.
and right where one or two of them were, though, one of them was actually right where the walkway is going to go, and it's a very wet area, so we actually need to do some drainage work. So if they're going to plant any others, let's,
We're not at the moment. We're communicating.
so out of all the ones the Shade Tree Commission planted, how many are left?
Three. There are three left. Out of all the
That
trees
is
we
sad.
planted.
That is sad.
$1,000 worth of trees.
You should comb the neighborhoods looking for them.
I'm going to go on a tree hunt.
Memorial of Pool.
That is amazing.
I know.
Community watch.
Okay.
Okay, that's a real shame.
That is just,
Okay.
that is sad you can't trust a tree in New Paltz. It is.
I know.
Okay, so we all guys done with Moriello Pool and everything else?
Yep.
And we promise never to do this again.
That sounds great.
Groundhog Day is what
She
day?
doesn't mean joint meetings, Dan.
I know. What day is Groundhog Day? February what? February what?
Second.
February 2nd? It's now officially February 3rd.
The movie.
We got past the...
All right, so we have one more thing.
Yes, which I think we... Which
Two more things on the
Can I
agenda.
just
The minutes and the master plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And before that, and I can already
No,
see the
that's
nasty
okay.
stares I'm about to get.
Oh, yes.
I believe we did skip over public comment.
Well, I had asked anybody if they had wanted to speak during public comment.
My understanding was that it had been asked if anybody wanted to
Right.
speak
I can't go
before
home
all
unless
the
I brought that up,
presentations,
so.
because they were here
Yeah.
to speak to us, and we wanted to get them in and out.
Yeah. So I actually had asked if anybody wanted to speak, and nobody said they wanted to speak. Is there anybody who wants to speak?
I'd like to speak.
Okay, do you want to speak to both boards or to the town board?
I'll speak to both boards.
Okay.
I'm gonna be real quick.
Okay, fine.
Can I speak from up here?
No.
No,
No.
yeah.
Thank you for asking.
You do?
No, I don't.
Just trying to get out of it.
If I didn't say that, I would.
I just wanted to say, I think with the idea of having a coalition for all the different environmental groups in the neighboring communities and in our communities,
Of which you're a member, I believe.
I have been neoleader, although I'm not here speaking on behalf of them. I'm speaking as a private resident. But I would just like to say that we could probably reach out to the neighboring communities, commissions, or committees and just do something together. I don't know if we need to create a whole new commission or committee when such already exists.
Well, thank you very much, and I think it was because you don't want him to get more work, because you want him home. But the truth is,
that would be my work, so.
but we're not creating a new committee, we just made him responsible for reaching out to whatever.
It's all together.
So when you go home tonight, you can tell him what he should do, and he'll do it, because he's been appointed.
Well, he does that social media so well, we got to keep him on it.
Okay,
He does know his face.
do we have a, what?
I see Comcast is on
Yeah.
your board meeting.
Right.
But at last night's board meeting, Don Kerr was with us and Dan was at the meeting. And I just wanted to clarify, the village did not end Public Access Committee. The Public Access Committee said to the board, we've done what we can do at the moment. We would like to go in on a leave, but are always available if and when you should need us. So they are not gone, they are dormant, or shall we, hibernating.
If there was a
On
We're
call.
talking about groundhogs,
They're on
they're
call.
hibernating.
On call.
But was that here? Was that at a joint meeting?
No.
No, that was at a separate meeting of the village board. But I know that there seems to be a problem, and that the town wasn't sure what we had done, that's what we did. So they are available, just if there's a, and one of the things that I would hope we might ask them to do is, I don't know what the new purchase of Comcast of Time Warner does to our contract.
Nothing.
Hmm?
Nothing.
Nothing? We're, everything's in place?
Yes.
Okay.
I do know that the Association of Supervisors are looking to try to see if there's a way that they can reopen up all of the contracts and do some kind of co-op contract with all the towns, because there's so many issues and problems.
Make sure you
For
get
him
the
to
town.
first, I hope.
I don't know, all I know is that they're talking about at the Supervisors Association about how to deal with the Time Warner contracts.
Make sure
The
you get
Comcast-
the money they promised you first,
We
and then
we
you
got
can
our
do
money, we
that.
got our $250,000, so we're okay, we got it finally. But the thing, just a quick aside, with the Comcast thing has to do with Comcast taking over Time Warner, and technically, I think we're supposed to do a resolution supporting it or whatever, which I'm not so sure we're going to do, but
Right.
that's why it's on the agenda, is to
Right,
discuss.
but I wanted, it reminded me that I wanted to clarify.
That we still have a Public Access Advisory Committee, a joint one, on the books between the town and the village, and that's the village's
That's the whole
understanding.
point, and it still exists.
Yeah.
Right, and our understanding was, which our town board seems to be in agreement, that we were under the standing, they sort of said, we did what we had to do, thank you, we don't really think we need to be in existence, but this was our understanding.
Yeah.
So what...
There seems to have been a misunderstanding.
Well, I'm just going to, so what we, when I was putting together the committees for this coming up year, because we have our website, because we have Facebook, and that we wanted to put together like a communications committee that dealt with Facebook, website, and anything to do with our public access, that we would sort of reformulate a new committee for the town to deal with all of our issues, and that's what we were planning on doing, but we haven't really formulated it, or we haven't really done it, and so, where we go from here, we could discuss at another point, but that's not on the
Yeah, but I
agenda,
did
so,
want you
thank
to
you.
know that.
Yes, thanks. Okay, so I gather for the next portion of the conversation, since it has to do with personnel, that we might want to make a motion to go into executive session?
We do the minutes first, so.
You want to do that?
Then this is the last thing we do is executive session.
Okay, I wanted to look at this
Did
one.
we do the contract in executive session?
No, I just
the
talked,
copies.
about doing the minutes and then talking about the.
Yes, we have to do executive session. It's
Did we
personnel.
do that?
Yeah, a lot he said in
We're gonna
there.
have to now, Gene.
Gee, it has to,
We're
it's
gonna
an
have to
executive session.
Okay.
Well, we've approved, but I'm not sure Katie got them to the town. Okay. I'm going to move the approval of the last minutes of our last joint board meeting.
March 27th.
Hmm?
March 27th.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. But I'm also going to ask, Jason, will you ask Katie, there was a point at which she was incorporating joint board meetings into the village board meetings, and I asked her to check with Will Frank to make sure they could be kept separately, because the town has never received them. Okay?
Yeah. fine.
and they need them
Or
to approve them.
it might be easier for you to just email Katie, since you know the details.
You want me to do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
since you know
right.
exactly what you're talking
Okay.
about.
It would,
So,
just in
so
terms
just on
of,
your end then, yes.
just in terms of real quickly before we approve the minutes and stuff, in these minutes, Sally and Kevin and whoever the parade committee is, you guys are supposed to get together to put together the contracts that you're going to bring back for us, if I remember correctly, or...
Or what, parades?
Yeah, for parades.
Yeah, we're going to do that and have it to you by June 1st, but we're moving away from a contract idea.
Okay.
Kevin and I will take care of it.
Although-
And as promised. And you also know that the village did honor a one-time commitment to the
Yes.
rescue squad for $25,000. And please note, if we say we're gonna do something, we'll do it.
No, we appreciate it, and the only reason it's not on the agenda tonight, because originally...
No, but it is, I know that there were questions.
No, but I had originally put it on the agenda, but what I did was I emailed Nancy to say, did the
Yep.
village board approve it? Because if you did, I don't have to put it on the agenda.
We
So
did.
we're just going to approve our 25 tonight, now that you've done that, and we're going to approve the contract and stuff, but it's not on the agenda because we did confirm that you did it, so thank you very
Maybe we
much.
have a copy of the contract, once you
Sure.
approve it,
Sure,
we need that.
no problem. Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a motion to approve the minutes first?
Rosanna, I would make a motion to approve the minutes, but I got a couple of typos on page 4. Did you already change them? I have the hard copy. Under public comment, Don Kerr commented that the town has spends, change it to spend. Under reassessment of town for tax equity, the fourth sentence down, the assessor to being the process, change it to begin. And under sports contract, change the stipend for the football contract to 1,000, comma, 215 from a period. And otherwise, I would make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Okay, so because the joint master plan is a issue relative to hiring, firing, or disciplinary action of a employer or personnel, I would like for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing joint master plan. Employee.
Second.
I'll second, all in favor?
All in favor for the town?
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
So sorry that we have to take a little bit of a break before we come back and then finish our town meeting. On for the third Thursday, the Ethics Board will come and present some of the changes, and maybe we can knock that off. We have to add a Coffee Systems contract, the Rescue Squad contract, now that we know that the village did the $25,000.
Coffee system?
Yeah, I'll explain it. It's just Poland Spring Water, it's changing it. Lowe's credit card situation. We have more Memorial Pool applicants we said we would have to do. And just an emergency personnel budget modification that I'll explain. So I need to add those to the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion also carried. Okay, so for access management, all we have to do, you all got a copy of the access management plan that's been worked on for an extremely long time. And we're, once again, cleaning up many long-standing projects and bringing them to conclusion. It was forwarded to the planning board. They, I think, already gave back their opinions. So what we just need to do tonight is, A, refer to the county planning board and set a public hearing on the access management plan for next month. So can I have a motion to refer the access management plan to the county planning board?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion so
Aye.
carried. Oh, Jean, I have a copy of it in writing for you.
Did you read the contract?
Okay. Do you want to set the public hearing, Rosanna, next the third Thursday of May? Is there anything scheduled that night? Okay, so do you guys want to do the access management public hearing that night or the fourth Thursday?
Third.
Okay, so the third Thursday, we'll do the public access management public hearing at 7:15? Okay, do I have a motion to set the public
So
hearing?
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
so carried. Okay, that's for access management. Coffee Systems contract, what that is, we have Poland Springs water in many different places. We've been having an awful lot of problems with their contract. There's been lots and lots of problems with everybody. You see Chris shaking his head, you see Laura shaking her head. So Arlene talked to Coffee Systems, who actually have a lot of municipalities. They're also local. They're somewhere between here and 213. And it ends up that they're...
Coffee System is right next door to us, next town over.
Okay, so Coffee Systems, so the the cost for the water is a little bit more, but the cups are half the price. There's no fee for oil, for the delivery for oil, and there's a whole bunch of other things that are cheaper. So all in all, it ends up being a much cheaper plan. And so Arlene asked if you could authorize me to sign the contract so we can make sure we have water for the pool when it opens and get done. She spends more time on the Poland Springs
Will
contract.
this be one master bill?
Yes.
So the police,
well, let me
everyone
check.
gets... We'll get one, and then then we just divide it, then we'll see a bill with...
Better deal, more per bottle, no rental fee, no oil charge fee, cups less than half, in place of Poland Spring, and he's a local guy.
Because we're signing
And-
bills for the police department, we're signing...
Every department has a water service that only delivers water on a timely basis. We will provide accurate billing. I've researched both Deer Park and Coffee Systems. Deer Park offers the same pricing, but my concern is they're just another division of the same company. Blah, blah, blah. Coffee Systems is a Hudson Valley contract. And, well, let's see, she says, she just asked us to attach the contract.
I trust her for that, it's going to do billing that she wants.
Right.
I know one problem is when we're doing vouchers is you're signing bills from Poland Springs for 5 different departments, and it's kind of a headache.
So probably, so we can either do it where she just does it and then she can bill it back, or...
Right, you bill back.
Whatever, okay. So do I have a motion to...
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Do we have a contract with Poland Springs?
I guess we must be able to, she's been working on this. The issues with deliveries and billing in Poland Springs, our current water provider, has been ongoing for several years in capital letters.
We have not signed, just so you know, this goes back to prior to this sitting board, and I had issues with it, and we looked at it, and nothing happened, but
Okay.
I am not, just so you know, Gene, there is no signed contract that was ever produced for me to look at over a couple of years of asking for one.
Okay, and what she says right here, their inability to bill according to our contract, well, it says to our contract, has created a booking nightmare that is made worse with each passing month. It's causing the town to have Rachel and I go back and correct bills each and every month. I've exhausted every attempt to get them to correct them. The sales rep no longer returns my calls or answers my emails, neither does management. So, well, authorize me to sign the contract. depending on the ability to make sure there's no conflict with the existing contract.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the new contract say?
Here's a copy of the contract.
One single contact, direct traffic. This is because he needs to do with stuff like that. And what they do is they pay for, plus they give us the juice.
Oh, look at this.
What?
Yeah, MMA, sure. Yeah. That's a corporation.
It's the only person I know who gets incredibly excited looking at a contract and seeing.
No, it's your spreadsheet. It's very nice.
But they didn't.
Can you do a close-up on how happy she is?
Why? Because it says we have to, there's a minimum.
Smiley Rose Incorporated.
There's a minimum.
And that's only something.
What?
No, you're doing
Are you
it.
talking about me?
We are now talking about you.
Because he has the
No,
authority
hours
to
is 7.
Did we move it and second it yet?
Put in words.
Jeff moved it.
Second.
Or any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried.
Now, while we're on that, can we also, I don't think we need to vote on it or take any action. I didn't find it. Can we ask also Arlene to maybe research going into, for next year, going to bid on our uniform service? We've been using the same uniform service forever and ever, and it would be nice to get that combined also, because Chris has his guys all in uniforms, Laura has guys in uniforms.
Love the idea. Love it.
Same company, but the problem is though, is it doesn't go to bid, and I think we should go to bid on it.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't mind that it's the same company, but let's just go to bid on
For
it.
clarification.
Yeah, so maybe she could research several, I
Okay.
believe there are several uniform
Okay.
companies
So
out
can we
there.
direct her to do it? Is that how we want to do this?
I don't
I'll
know,
just ask
Maybe in a
Arlene.
couple months.
I'll just ask Arlene to start,
just authorize her to start the
She's
bid.
really busy.
She is busy.
yeah, right now's not the
Great.
time.
She
Yeah.
is doing great, so there,
Yeah.
this has until next budget cycle, so
Right,
we're in good
exactly.
shape.
Okay.
But if she started now, then we'd have something to play
Okay,
with.
after the annual report, she'll start. Okay, Rescue Squad, basically, it's the same exact contract. The only thing we added in is, in addition, the town will contribute the sum of $25,000 as a one-time payment to the Rescue Squad. This is to cover increase in staffing demands due to increasing call volume during the term of this agreement. Disbursement to be paid in the following manner, and actually, the disbursement was already due. So otherwise, this contract that we signed is the same contract. So do I have a motion now that we know that the village authorized their $25,000?
I thought we already did this, or am I
No,
confused?
what happened was, we authorized it based on the village, we authorized the original contract, the one that we paid them $147,000. Then the $25,000 that we owed was based on the village approving their $25,000. The village put it into their budget, which now we have to take our action for our $25,000 in the B fund.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion so carried. I thought you were going to, okay, motion so carried. Great, done.
Okay, I don't think, did you have Rescue Squad on there? I
Yeah,
didn't
right
write
here, we
it
added it,
down.
'cause
When did you say that?
When I amended the
She
agenda.
amended the agenda, which I will move to amend, by the way. Second?
We already did that. We did it.
We're good.
We did it already.
did it.
It's already done.
We did it. 6 words or less. I can get this. Okay. Okay. The load situation really quickly is similar to like billing nightmares. That what happens right now is we have one contract, we have one account under building grounds or
Highway building.
under highway building and grounds, but a lot of people are using it.
We need
It's all
sub-accounts.
going,
I need a
it's all going to Chris. It's a nightmare for them to separate. The only problem is, what I would like to ask Chris is, Arlene gave me the list today of all the people, the authorized buyers on the list. It's almost like everybody in buildings and grounds in highway has the right to go and use this, right? And that's okay, and it works out, and it's not a problem. So,
We have never had a problem to date.
Okay, I just have one thing to say about that then. The highway and buildings and grounds did not sign the town credit card policy.
That's correct.
Okay. And yet, we want to allow them the freedom to go to Lowe's and charge whatever they want for your department. And yet, what we have, Bill Russell, Laura Pettit, Chuck, and Jim Tinger have all signed the town credit card policy. People that we allowed to have the same freedom to use the town's Lowe's account as we allow the highway.
Just so you know.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. Is today, well, just so you know, is today, it was, Chris and I had a few other items to run around the town and look at, and he brought to my attention the credit card policy, and maybe I can enlist your assistance. There's a lot of confusion out there of what they're signing. Some of the language was written by lawyers.
Really?
And they're finding it, so Chris had written up a piece which was just handed several hours before this meeting, and I apologize I did not make copies because I just got it. And they would just like some plain language discussion of it to see what they're signing. They're concerned by what they're signing on it. So that was the only reason. There was no, and I don't mean to speak for you, Chris, but Chris and I spoke just again about 5 o'clock today about it. They are just a little concerned about exactly what they're signing, and they need a plain language version of it.
When it was handed to me by Arlene, I made copies and gave it to all the employees, and including myself, didn't understand it and was confused by it.
So
Okay,
he
but
gave
did
it
anyone come down and talk to the bookkeeper about it?
Yes, I talked to Arlene about it.
and then he made a,
She couldn't clarify?
well, he made a plain, they will sign the full one, they just want something that explains it. So I will send that, Chris, what you gave me today at 5 o'clock, I will forward to Kevin, and he will help
Okay.
translate it. So it
Okay.
is in plain language. They didn't have a problem, they just want to make sure they know what they're signing.
Okay, so basically, Arlene saying is, I spoke with our account rep at Lowe's, and I have all the paperwork filled out, ready for your signature and board approval to set up a master account with separate billable sub-accounts for each of the departments that have been using the highway account. They can be tracked by department and billed separately. I need your signature to complete the process, and I guess board approval. Bill, and then it goes into the other thing. I need the authorization to go ahead and complete the setup of the master account.
I would move that, subject to the requirement that they sign the town's credit card policy agreement.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so
Nay.
carried.
Oh, we got a...
Okay.
Gene, could you articulate why you're saying no?
Yes.
Sure. Because you're saying based on them signing something that we haven't seen.
I'm saying based upon them signing the town's credit card policy.
No, they're willing to sign it.
Actually,
But we haven't seen it.
okay, actually, we should probably really amend it first of all, because
No.
the truth of the matter is, these guys already are on the account, and the problem is not with the highway and building grounds. We're creating sub-accounts, so when Laura gets her bills, and Jim gets his bills, and the community center gets their bills,
So
Arlene and
let-
Carol don't have to
let me
spend so
amend
much
it
time,
then.
please.
Okay, so I am
Authorizing me to sell.
moving the establishment of the new sub-account
Right,
system,
right.
subject to town policy.
She's thinking about it.
No, she's not.
No, she's not thinking
No,
about it. I thought that was
listen,
thinking.
okay, we don't have to, actually, the truth is, we don't need a motion relative to getting the highway guys to sign it. It's their obligation to
No,
sign
it's
it.
subject to town policy. So obviously, you're setting it up with the sub-accounts.
Right.
With all the users in the sub-accounts.
The people who are being set up for the sub-accounts have already signed the policy.
Okay, fine.
So we're setting up the sub-accounts for people who've already applied for the policy. The problem is the people who don't need the sub-account, they're the ones who have to sign this stuff, but they already have the ability to
Are
go.
you sure there's not one person that's in the sub-account that hasn't signed?
There isn't anybody, no.
Buildings and Grounds and Highway Department have not signed, and
No,
they
no,
are
no.
already on a sub-account.
No.
Because
They
they've been-
are the account.
Right.
They are the account.
I
The
understand.
sub-account is for Bill Russell, Laura
And I'm not
Pettit.
saying I'll take it away, because as you can see, you have a
But yes,
majority vote.
She says Bill Russell, Laura Pettit, Chuck, and I believe Jim have all signed the town credit card policy.
Fine.
So-
Because they've complied with town policy.
Right.
Good.
So you just authorized me to set up the sub-account.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of me authorizing to be set up a sub-account?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Motion so carried. Okay, that's that. Memorial pool applications. We knew that we were going to have a couple more
Let's talk
kids.
more about the pool.
I make a motion that we approve all the employees on the attached list from Bill Russell.
Did we do that, or was?
Yes, and we said that we were going to be doing more.
Lifeguard, because
Because
it's lifeguards and gate attendants. No.
Okay, so, you need that list, everybody's got that list, right?
I think there was a motion
I
made.
didn't get a
Yes,
list.
I have it right
Did you
here.
get a list?
Two of them.
Was that in the packet?
Yeah, the list is,
I don't have it. You had it?
I don't recall seeing it, but that could have just been oversight on my part.
this
Miss John's
is,
TK, I'm okay with that too.
So that was online?
yeah, I think I'm pretty sure we have that, but give me a second.
Okay, so that's,
Comcast,
so I didn't get it.
Comcast, Wine Festival, Family Contract. Oh, here it is, Employees Pool.
Some get more. The ones that
So we're
give
seeing it this morning.
Yeah,
the lessons.
Employees Pool,
Thank you.
Employees Pool, Employees Pool. Employees Pool, Employees Pool. Want to see who's getting hired?
I know a lot of these things.
I do too.
So kids in New Paltz being given jobs. So do I have a motion? Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to hire?
I'll move it.
Go ahead.
I'll move
Second.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried.
We've
Okay,
officially created as many jobs as Wilmer I will, guys.
we created more.
More,
At a higher rate
actually.
of pay.
Okay.
We've
At a
actually-
higher rate of pay.
Put that in paper.
Okay, I need to, for the emergency personnel position that Carol's, we had her in .4 as a contract, but Bill Wallens basically said that it should be moved to .1. And so what we need to do is just make the budget modification. But the only thing is we have to put some money in for increasing benefits, and we didn't calculate, so we thought if you
Yeah, but
had a,
No,
You said no percentage.
we also need to create a job for the town to send to Ulster County. And I don't, so we have to fill one of those things out for the county.
Something you're going to do, Gene?
No.
I move that Gene's
No,
It's
you
not
don't have to do that.
something I'm going to do, because it's not what I thought Jeff and Gail were asking for.
I mean, we can still work with Bill to try to make it, keep it in .4. You know what, so let's hold this.
Well,
let's
maybe
put them up
maybe
as
Bill
tables.
will know
Well,
what to put
we can
in.
table it. The only problem is, and it's not a problem, it's just that right now the line, you know, the money's in a different line and where it's coming out, but we'll deal with
Right.
it. Let's
But-
table this for a minute,
But
because we're still working with Bill on it, so don't worry, okay? Next, the firework contract, so we can have, for the fairgrounds, so we can have the fireworks. So
So
it's-
moved.
Second.
It's, the event date is July 5th, and the raid date is July 6th for the 4th of July celebration. I have a
So-
motion?
Yep, so moved, and I want to thank the supervisor working diligently on this, along with, I believe, Craig Shankles is working with it
yep.
very diligently with you.
And Carol,
And Carol, so thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
We look
thank
forward to
you.
hearing more.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried, great. Okay, Family of Newport's
I'll
contract, so we can pay them?
I'll move the Family of Woodstock, Family of New Paltz, not
Okay, any
Woodstock.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried, great organization. Police service, we do separate contracts for organizations that need police to do traffic control, so there's going to be a phenomenal wine festival.
Can
Is
we-
this
Wait,
for May
we had,
31st?
before we discuss this more, we had, Councilman Berry has reviewed it and has some comments that
Okay.
we may need to table this.
Okay, although
I
it's
don't
coming up.
have a problem with the contract itself. It does, I have a problem with who's signing it and who the responsible party is that we're contracting with. I kind of thought that the Mountain House was a specific corporation
Right.
of some kind, so we need that specified in the contract and somebody authorized to sign for the corporation to sign the contract. And then there's...
Isn't Gary Ashdown the chief of security for Mohawk?
I don't know.
No, isn't it the Smiley Corporation?
It should be.
No, it says right here.
Or it could be the Mohawk Mountain House.
It's a Mohawk Mountain House, the contract
But it
says.
should indicate what capacity.
There's also a typo in it too, where you can tell it's the old Studley contract because
Studley
there's a
connection.
reference,
Yeah.
there's a Studley in it.
Yeah.
So,
Page
and
two,
also,
item four.
I'd be very surprised that they are allowing their chief of security to encumber their funds. I think
Well,
I'd
actually-
prefer to see it signed by maybe one of their CEOs, CFOs.
Well, actually, the truth is, you know what, I suspect that this was, the police took the contract from Studley, you're probably right, redid it, just sent it over, and it might not even be Gary Ashton. So,
Just a quick question too, and I could be 100% wrong here. Isn't the actual physical house not in New Paltz?
No, this would be down by the gatehouse, which actually is...
Okay, that is New
They're not asking for them to be up there yet. The gatehouse actually is the town of New Paltz, but the Mountain House itself is in Marbletown.
Right. Okay.
but they usually ask the New police. So do you,
I would like something that's, to Kevin's point, that indicates what the actual corporation is. It's not Mohawk Mountain House. I don't believe it's MMH, I believe
so
it.
the only thing,
And also Studley is removed from there, and also... And paragraph 4
refers to Studley statements.
And then also that it's signed by an officer that's able to encumber funds for either Smiley Brothers or Mohawk Mountain House. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, because there's an insurance provision in here. They're required to maintain insurance, so you want to know who's...
And we would
obligated
need,
to
and
do
we
it.
would need a copy of their insurance certificate too. We would need to get a copy of that. Because I know when we used to sign with Studley, we would get a copy of the
Yeah.
insurance
yeah,
certificate
they
from
always do
him.
that. I'm just
Not
trying
that,
to
and
think
let them know we don't
do you
mind
know
signing
do you know
with
when it is?
May 30th.
So May 30th, so we
So
could
we
do
have
this
to-
at the,
With those changes, I feel.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
have, I don't have
so
a
do you want to
problem.
authorize it with those changes, incumbent upon those changes, or what's the word you would use?
That's fine.
So you want to make the motion?
No, I'll second the motion.
I just want you to make the motion legally, so we do it right.
Okay. He's going to say no anyway.
I might give it some consideration.
Good.
Okay.
But I think we have time, though. I don't know if we need to do that, since we have time between
Then
now and
let's
then.
wait.
Okay.
We have the third
Okay,
Thursday.
if there's any particular reason why it couldn't be, then
Yeah, we have
I'll
time
call a
until
special
Thursday.
meeting
Final doc.
to do it. Okay, okay.
So we're requesting a final document.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you,
not a
Counselor.
problem. Okay, so let me just see what is left. Oh, this Comcast thing. Did anybody have time to read this?
I actually did.
Did you read it?
Yeah, I did.
So, I mean, from what I understand, this deal of Comcast buying Time Warner isn't so good for everybody to start with, and sort of like not a really great situation, and
You know,
I don't know if we have to do, they say, should you choose to affirmatively consent to this transaction, so we don't have to formally agree to consent.
that's why you got to appreciate the technology that Barry Diller is kind of
Oh, I'm
developed.
sorry, who?
Barry Diller.
Oh, yes, my cousin.
Is he your cousin?
He actually is.
Is he really?
Barry Diller's your cousin?
What are you doing here?
That's not a joke, he really is. Yeah.
What's he doing?
What are you doing?
My mother is Rosalind Diller.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. No,
What
this is not
are you doing here?
It's not close enough of a cousin.
Haven't you guys been to weddings or something?
Yeah,
together?
I did go to a family reunion once.
Come on,
That's
Dan
what I
was
meant.
being
So they
candid.
have a device where you just capture the signals right out of the air as a service. And it's up at the Supreme Court now. They have to make a determination whether or not that's permitted or not. But see, I hate monopolies.
No, I know, and this is going to be a bigger and bigger monopoly, taking
Well,
away
this
our
was
rights too.
this could be denied too. Right?
Well, it's in front of the FCC, right?
Yeah, they could.
FCC.
No, it's in front of the Supreme Court right now. They're trying
No,
to
no, this
decide.
is the FCC, it's in front
Oh,
of the
that, you mean, no,
FCC
oh.
in terms of Time Warner, Comcast taking over.
It's FCC and FTC.
Yeah, I think
Federal
there's a
Trade
federal
Commission.
hearing on this recently.
I want to get back to why Dan's here. Barry Diller, you know Barry Diller's worth $2.5 billion?
I knew it was around there, yeah. I'm not
2.5
saying we're
billion.
close cousins, I'm just saying that we are
I
related.
think you should get closer.
I met him once as a young child at a family reunion with a lot of other people.
Have you written to him? Dear Uncle Barry.
Are you feeling pressure?
I regret mentioning it.
You got monstrosity.
Okay, guys, we could try to get out of here soon.
Very good story.
Or
Yeah,
we can
let's-
keep,
Highlight of my night.
Dan is going to be asking you for favors.
I asked for your assistant.
Okay, guys, so do you want to sort of like not do anything, do something?
Well, what do you want to do?
No, I got this, and
What
it's
was
sort
the
of-
question, Susan?
It said, should you choose to affirmatively consent to the transaction, we would close the draft consent resolution to be used to help expedite the consent process. We would request that a consent resolution, if need be, placed on your agenda for consideration at your earliest convenience. But is there a reason why we would want to consent to Time Warner Cable merging with Comcast?
No.
Not
Yeah, I'd
necessarily.
rather not do it.
So, okay, so I just wanted to make sure
Yeah, I
that
don't
we
wanna
were all in
lend.
agreement that we don't
Your
want to.
consent is like lending support to.
Yeah,
That's
that's my
right.
opinion too, and I don't want to do that.
Do we want to write a letter opposing?
We
Well,
could
I think you
consider
could write
that.
a lot of letters, especially if you knew Barry Dillon.
So do you want to just?
I think we should just table it for now, and then how about we consider writing a letter or resolution for our next meeting?
Okay. So I just got it. They said put it on the agenda as soon as possible. I put it on, but I don't want to do it.
Okay.
But I didn't want to ignore it. So I did my due
And
diligence.
could you ask him about Arrow, right? Dear Barry,
Okay.
how is the Arrow case going in front of the Supreme Court?
I'll text him a little bit.
Like, he didn't call and say, Dan, buy this stock called Bamboo. He didn't call you a few years ago and say that, huh?
Never featured on the Home Shopping Network.
Okay.
I'm done.
Guys, okay, so what we have left is the warrant, and we could get out of here. Do we have minutes for tonight?
I don't think you had touched any, did you?
I still have the minutes. There's only one set I saw.
April 17th?
Yeah, that was fine.
That's March 27th is, oh, that's a joint
We
town.
did that,
Right.
yeah.
Did that
And
one.
do you have the 17th?
Haven't seen any.
I just sent them today, so maybe too soon.
Okay, so why don't we just do it next time?
You can knock them out.
Okay.
Okay.
Or if I look at them real quick, we can knock them out.
17.
You already read your minutes?
They're all online, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when you get a chance to.
Okay.
And then you emailed them to us too, right? You did silly
She did email it to us today.
I was waiting for the
I got
resolution.
to.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, okay.
That was a
why-
long input, that resolution, for these minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Took a lot of time.
I just cut and pasted.
Oh, you did?
But that's what I asked you for, so I didn't have to retype it.
Did you see, I don't know if you exactly put it
Otherwise, I
on about
would
it at
grab
times,
minutes outside.
out of Arrow was the case? Did you see one of the things we're going to do? Arrow is the name of the
This whole resolution, oh my God.
the Supreme Court. Fox always said that you bought it
And I was like,
and
I
go
wonder if maybe just didn't get it.
independent. They'll become like A&E or TMC. They're just going to pull out. They'll stop transmitting over the internet. Is
Oh,
that
just
on
remind
ABC,
me.
NBC? Well, they're done. They're dinosaurs.
And you have multiple emails too.
Well, I tried to get
Roku, all that stuff is gonna be.
Well, it's still going to be, no, it's, well, they've all proven they can do independent content and do great. Look at that. That's what this is. Oh my God, that show was with Kevin Spacey, who's the president.
How's it called?
Oh, I can't wait for that. Have you finished it? Couple. I finished it. Couple of them made me sad. The one with the hand, the bloody hand. Oh, tall. Oh, that's what I mean. That's what I was talking to you. I didn't know. I didn't like that show.
Are we okay with minutes?
We just, Gina and I were both just looking at them real quick. Okay, so I do have a motion to move the April 17th
So
minutes.
moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motions are carried.
We're up to date.
We have to, there was one more thing you wanted us to do, Rosanna, which was quickly accepting the
Resignation?
the resignation and then doing the appointment.
Do the appointment.
Yeah, so that was, I got that from you this afternoon, too.
Jim Highland from the ENCD submitted his resignation.
Oh,
And that would create a vacancy on the commission. Actually, it's CWASP, I'm sorry.
Right, CWASP.
CWASP. So that would create a vacancy, but you guys had already appointed Richard Fiesel,
Mhm.
but you couldn't appoint him because there was already the maximum number of members on the commission.
Mhm.
So we were waiting for Jim Highland to submit his formal resignation to create the vacancy, so now you can appoint Richard Fiesel to CWASP.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
I make a motion to formally appoint Richard Fiesel.
First accept the resignation.
I'm would like to make a motion to accept the resignation with regret
Of?
Jim Highland.
of Jim Highland from CWAS.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thank you for your service.
Thank you, Jim.
Now make
Thank
a
you,
motion.
Jim.
Now you want to make the motion to appoint again.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Richard Pfizer to the open position on the CWAS.
For a term
For
of,
a term that's being changed to December 2017 to allow the staggering of expiration dates as per the law's requirement.
That sounds good.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. It's really, again, I hope everybody appreciates how on top of all of these committee appointments, we finally are. It's only taken 3 years.
But it's working.
It's working, but we're finally on top of it, except the warrant.
We don't have a
We don't
warrant
have a warrant.
tonight.
don't have a
That's
warrant.
right. I'm
But
sorry.
what about Arlene's email about the funds and the budget modifications and payroll expenses?
She did,
And
I did not see that, nor did she go over that with me.
because I think you need to create 2 new positions. And
This is again about this stuff. No, we had decided that we will wait to talk to Bill again.
okay.
This is for the senior and the emergency preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we can,
All right. So you bring it back to the table
yes.
in May.
I might do an emergency meeting just so we can deal with payroll and paying people, but let's
Okay.
finalize this a little bit better.
We also
So
need to formally accept Kathy Puglisi's contract.
Well, no, see, the thing
I'm
is...
looking at it, yeah.
Well, no, I'm not asking you to do that yet either, because we have Kathy Puglisi in point 4, and we have Carol in point 4, but there's a debate whether or not those are really contractual positions, or they're really, quote, employee positions, and so Bill Wallens is... That's what I talked with you.
I'm
we
with
talked,
you, yeah, I'm
And
with
so Bill is trying to delineate if it's a true contract that we're hiring, or it's personnel, and, because you don't want to get in trouble with...
Okay, then we would
Circuit-
have to change the minutes. All right,
well, what's
so
your
we
fee-
need to resolve what we
Exactly,
did.
which
We need
is
to
why,
resolve,
which
yeah.
is why
Okay.
we talked to Bill, I've checked with Bill.
Okay.
He was doing more research, and so
Okay.
that's why I'm saying, let's just put those 2 on hold.
Okay, so it's subject to...
And we might have to do something really
Okay.
quick, a
That's
special
fine.
meeting, just so we can deal with it, but
Okay.
yeah, because we're dealing with the IRS stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so, Dan Barry Diller, does anybody want to make a motion to close this wonderful
So moved.
meeting?
Second.
You want to have a discussion about closing, or you want to talk about anything else? You want to talk about Dan for a while longer? Do you want to ask Dan about the history of his family in relation to the Dillers?
Sure do.
Yeah, actually we do, but we later.
Okay.
All
Motion
in
to
favor?
close.
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Aye.
I guess these must be our new microphones we found out.
Yeah, these are really sensitive. We should be aware of that. I'm not going to say what village trustee I heard saying nasty things about us, but one of them you might have picked up on that.
Tonight on the thing? Was that about...
Well, if you watch the video